There will now be an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. May we be seated. Once more, let me take this opportunity and welcome our honorable members to this hybrid sitting, which is conducted through the Microsoft Teams platform and whereby some members are in remote attendance. This hybrid sitting is conducted in terms of Rule 3A of our standing rules, referred to as Rules for Sittings of the House and Meetings of Committees by Virtual Means. Honorable members must, however, note that our rules and orders are still applicable during the proceeding of this hybrid sitting, and we are therefore called upon to adhere to them. You are further requested to remain in attendance for the duration of the hybrid sitting, unless a formal apology to leave the sitting has been duly tendered. The Secretary will ensure the provision of technical support throughout the sitting. Honorable members, all microphones must be muted and the video must be turned off when a member is not speaking. When a member intends to speak, please click the icon to raise your hand. Once you are recognized by the speaker, please unmute your microphone and turn on the video to introduce yourself and speak. Statements by members. Are there any statements? Honorable Mlombo.
Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Since I'm the first speaker, I think I must greet accordingly. To greet you, Honorable Speaker, greet the Honorable Premier, the Deputy Speaker of the Legislature, the Deputy Chief Whip, the Leader of Government Business, members of the Executive Council, members in the Legislature, and our distinguished guest. Honorable Speaker, I rise on behalf of the African National Congress to condemn in the strongest possible term the destruction of education at the University of Mpumalanga by the local taxi association. Honorable Speaker, for years the people of Mpumalanga demanded a fully fledged university so that their children can get skills and education to change their lives and uplift the economy of the province. The caring and listening government of the people, as led by the African National Congress, declared the University of Mpumalanga as part of the two new public universities to be built after the dawn of democracy. On Monday, the 7th of June, the university community and the students woke up to find that there will be no academic activities proceeding as a result of the local taxi association launching a protest action directed at the university, demanding to be the exclusive transporter of students to the university. Honorable Speaker, as a result of the strike, all roads leading to the university were barricaded, forcing staff and children and management to turn away. A meeting between the university management, the accommodation service providers and taxi association collapsed on Wednesday, the 9th of June 2021, when hooligans badged the meeting and violently disrupted the meeting in the presence of police. the conduct of the taxi operators to disrupt learning during the COVID-19 recovery period when students are preparing for their examination must be condemned in the strongest possible term. The ANC would like to call on the MEC for Community Safety, Security and Licensing, Honorable Shengwe, to act decisively to ensure that the situation is normalized and academic activities at the university resume in earnest. Honorable Speaker, I thank you.
I will now call upon the Honorable MEC for Public Works, Roads and Transport.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the Chief Whip for that statement. Honourable Speaker, as the MEC for Public Works, Roads and Transport, I would like to place on record that such behaviour from our side is also something that we don't condone, especially from taxi associations. Also in which you disrupt the education process of students. The department has already been there, and we are in the process of facilitating the process together with the Department of Education. Thank you.
Honorable Mashego.
Honorable Speaker, as the second speaker, now that the Chief Whip has already dealt with the protocols, let me get into the statement. Honorable Speaker, the ANC would like to commend the Department of Health under the stewardship of MEC Manzini and the provincial government in rolling out the PEFSA vaccine. Currently, senior citizens are receiving the first dose. We encourage senior citizens to register for vaccination in all healthcare facilities. Honorable Speaker, they can also register online at vaccine.enroll.gov.za or using WhatsApp line 0600 123 456 or via SMS dialing *134 *832#. We request young people to assist the elderly in registering. The vaccine rollout is happening across the province. For an example, in Govan Mbeki, Evander Hospital, Kinross Old Age Care Center, etc. The ANC would like to urge every citizen to continue adhering to the COVID-19 regulations and health protocols by wearing a mask, washing of hands with a sanitizer or soap for at least 20 minutes. Also ensure social distance and avoid crowded areas. Together we'll fight this invisible enemy. I thank you.
Honorable MEC Manzini.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let us welcome the statement by Honorable Mashego and indeed indicate that as a province we have started in rolling out the vaccine plan, and we are overwhelmed by the response from the communities that are coming out in their numbers, especially the elders. And you can even see the excitement from those that are below the age of 60 that people are ready to come and get the vaccine. That on its own, it shows that the community and the population of the province are willing to work with the provincial government to make sure that we cap the spread of the COVID-19. So we really welcome, indeed, we are continuing, and honorable members must continue to assist where they are in terms of making sure that the elderly people register with the numbers provided by Honorable Mashego. And we really appreciate that everything is going very well so far. We have not seen any challenges in the province. Thank you very much.
Honorable Sithole.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise to deliver a member statement on behalf of the Democratic Alliance. Honourable Speaker, on the 11th of May 2021, MEC for Social Development, Njali was unable to respond to the DA oral question regarding the long-term care facilities provided to psychiatric patients in Mpumalanga. It is extremely concerning that instead of responding to questions in this House, Honorable MEC chooses to grandstand without an answer. Honorable Speaker, only a person who is not mentally well will use the issue of mental illness to score cheap political points. While Honorable Njali only thinks about electioneering, the DA has raised the issue of long-term care for psychiatric patients 9 times in this very House. While Honorable Njali just joined this House the other day after the 2019 elections, the DA has been fighting for psychiatric patients in this province long before she arrived. Unlike her department that doesn't care about issues of mental illness, the DA is not interested in her incompetence if she comes to this House unprepared and unable to answer questions. Again, yesterday, Honorable MEC insisted that she has responded. Can the Honorable MEC tell us where, when, and to who her responses were sent to? If her answer is that long-term care for psychiatric patients is not her responsibility, but the responsibility of the health department, then she should have said so from the beginning, instead of continuously misleading the House and insisting that she has sent a response where a response is non-existent. We must remember, according to Rule 1021A, a member of the executive must reply to questions where she said she'll do it in writing within 10 days. Honorable MEC Njali, the DA is still waiting for a response with mental illness healthcare issues. Mpumalanga is in a dire need of long-term care, and the patients who are psychiatrically ill are taken advantage of by this government by not receiving the treatment they deserve. You are part of the executive, you are part of this government, so the DA is still waiting for an answer. I thank you.
Honorable Njali. Honorable Shongwe.
No, ngibonga kakhulu Somlomo. Ngibonga nakumhlonishwa ophakamise le statement we DA. Angisho ukuthi sizawundlulisa lo kukhathazeka kwakhe to MEC we DST ukuthi akake ayibuke amphendule according to lokakushoko ngoba indeed kuyiqiniso ukuthi uma sila endlini yesishaya mthetho kunombuzo ozakithi siwuphendule uma ngabe ukhuluma ngama statistics at a particular time unganawo uyacela endlini yesishaya mthetho ukuthi awu ngicela ukuhamba ngiyochecka kahle ama facts wami ngizoresponda within 10 days. Ngicela ukusho ke ukuthi sizawundlulisa kumhlonishwa umhlonishwa uzawuphendula ngendlela yakhona. Ngiyabonga.
Are there any member statements? Honorable Makarenge.
Morning, Honorable Speaker. The ANC is deeply concerned about the increasing number of sales of counterfeit goods and the illegal manufacturing of certain hazardous products that are being sold to our black communities. Honorable Speaker, there are talks doing the rounds that foreign nationals during shops and supermarkets within our communities are selling fake Coca-Cola, maize meal, grandpa powders, allegedly Integwan products, and other related counterfeit products. The sad reality is the fact that those counterfeit products are meant to be consumed by black communities at the townships. Furthermore, Honorable Speaker, the very same foreign nationals are the ones involved in the illegal drugs trade and manufacturing in our country. Yet they cry foul of xenophobia when we voice our disapproval of the activities. We therefore urge our law enforcement agencies, especially the security cluster, to actively get rid of those involved in the illegal activities mentioned above. I thank you.
Honorable Shongwe.
Mhlonishwa somlomo ngibonge ishukumiso esiqhamuka kumhlonishwa uMakaringe. Ishukumiso lesi esibaluleke kakhulu ngicabanga ukuthi siyisifundo kithi sonke singamalungu esishaya umthetho singabe media singumphakathi oqhamuka endlabeni ezihlukene ukuthi izinto ezingekho emthethweni lezi ezibizwa ngama counterfeit kubaluleke kakhulu ukuthi singazithengi nanoma ngabe sizibona zishiphe kanjani zinomthelela ku economy ye province ne country zibulala laba akungibona ba producer the original products. So kubaluleke kakhulu ukuthi singakwenzi lokho kungako si Department ye Community Safety Security Liaison sine program ye border management. Some of those things sizibamba khona lapha emaborder ngoba ziqhamuka emazweni angabomakhelwane. Kungathi ke kungaba isifundo lesi siphakamiswa ngumhlonishwa ukuthi sisindlulise nala sileader khona sibatshele ukuthi bangakwenzi lokho. Ngiyazi kona ukuthi into engathi inamanana phansi siyayithanda kodwa sibokwazi ukuthi sebulala umnotho waseMpumalanga nase South Africa. Ngiyabonga.
Is there any member statement? Executive statements. Are there any executive statements? Motions without notice. Are there any motions without notice? Honorable Mkachwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise to move a motion without notice to condemn the criminal activities happening around the province, especially around Pinar and Bombela local municipality, where currently police are looking for suspects in two separate murder cases that occurred in the early hours of Sunday, 6th of June. People are being stabbed and murdered, and the suspects are currently on the run. Noting that safety is one of our priorities, and we expect that people must live in a safe environment so that they can be able to survive freely without being scared. The other murder incident happened when a group of motorists were engaged in spinning their vehicles when one of the vehicles reportedly bumped into another that was not part of the spinning. This led to squabbles that resulted in one man being shot and killed on the scene. Further noting that we have learned that the spinning of cars is quite rife in both Kanyamazane and Pinar, and this poses danger to communities that those cars are spinning on. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion. Agree to? Yes, so agreed. Honorable Weber.
Honourable Speaker, I rise to deliver a motion without notice on behalf of the Freedom Front Plus. On behalf of the Freedom Front Plus, I hereby move this motion without notice that the MEC for Kokta, Honourable Wasiwa Shiba, urgently intervene in the town of Bethel in the Govan-Mbeki municipality. The municipality was placed under administration in October 2020, but unfortunately the perilous situation in Bethel has not improved since then. Residents must not only deal with Eskom's load shedding, but also with municipal shedding on the same days due to lack of payment to Eskom. Die munisipale beurtkrag in Bethal is reeds in 2019 deur die munisipaliteit in werking gestel. Dit beteken dat hulle dikwels tot 36 uur sonder krag sit en dit in die middel van die derde COVID-19 golf. As daar geen krag is nie, kan water nie gepomp word nie. How are our people and specifically staff in the hospitals supposed to sanitize properly without any water, specifically hot water? In addition, there is a total decay of Govan-Begi's sewage works, which creates a serious health risk and infringes on residents' constitutional right to a healthy environment. Especially the Department of Health has admitted that COVID-19 is spread through fecal matter. The municipality urgently needs to pay attention to the general state of Bethel service delivery, as it cannot be that residents paying the electricity have to be subjected to the municipality's non-payment to Eskom. I so move. Honourable Speaker.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion. Agreed to?
Agreed.
So agreed. Honourable Nyembe.
Thank you, Chairperson. I greet the whole House in the August House this morning as the sitting is taking place. Honourable Speaker, I rise on behalf of the economic freedom fighters to support the call made by our Central Command team about the closure of daily super spreaders, which is our schools. The EFF further calls for the department to proper documentation of data harvesting for schools to have and keep records of all learners who get absent due to infection or isolation because of COVID-19. I so move.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion. Agreed to?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Motion defeated. Honourable Grobler.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Good morning to the House. I rise to deliver a motion without notice on behalf of the Democratic Alliance. Honourable Speaker, the MEC of Health, Honourable Sasekani Manzini, revealed shocking statistics as to the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccines in the province. We this morning had a statement about this as well, Honourable Speaker, but I feel that the statistics are being shared very sparingly. Honourable MEC, yesterday you mentioned that your department has only managed to vaccinate 41.2% of healthcare workers to date during phase 1 of the rollout. This is in the province. Given the fact that this is 4 months later, we find it very concerning that the department has not been able to vaccinate 50% of our healthcare workers. Honourable Speaker, phase 2, which targets the population of residents who are over the age of 60, began last month, and to date the department has only managed to obtain a percentage of 19.8, less than 20%. Honourable MEC, on the 6th of May 2021, in the Sowetan, you are noted saying that the province will only require 21 days to vaccinate 67% of the population following the start of phase 2. It's a month later since you made this statement, and as the province we have only managed to vaccinate 58,000 residents during the first 2 phases. This out of a population of 4.6 million. And that, Speaker, is why we're saying that the statistics being shared by the MEC and the chairperson of the committee is not true. Honourable Speaker, this makes me very scared because as a population of Mpumalanga, we need to fight this pandemic through vaccinations and through responsible actions. Given the above, Honourable Speaker, I move that the provincial government does everything in its power to admit to the true statistics of the vaccine rollout and to ensure that vaccines are rolled out quicker for us as a province to be safe from this pandemic. I so move.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion. Agreed to? Motion defeated. Is there any motion without notice?
Shongwe. Honorable Speaker, my hand is up, Shongwe.
Honorable Shongwe, you are noted.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Somlomo lohloniphekile. Ngiphakamisa nasi isishukumiso lesinganasadiso la i-ANC incoma kungenelela kwahulumende ekutheni kusukunyelwe indzaba yebagibeli benkampani yamabhasi iPATCO lebalahlekelwe timpilo tabo khani le bhasi yokhela ngemlilo emavikini lamabili ladlulile. Somlomo Ndvunankulu umake Refile Mtseni Tsipani umhlonishwa Vusi Shongwe Mayor Make Saramasilela weNkangala District na Mayor Mtsweni wethembisile hani baphume nesisombululo ngemuva kwekuxoxisana nebaphathi bePATCO uvunyelane ngaloku ke kulowo mhlangano ukuthi umndeni ngamunye walaba labasithupha labashona utawuncesheteliswa ngesamba lesingu-100,000 ngetulu kwaloke batawutfola imali lenganga 10,000 ngenyanga kude kube ngilapho i-Road Accident Fund ibabhadala khona. Kutawuvuleka futhi emathuba emsebenzi kulilunga ngalinye lemndeni yalaba labashona kule nkampani yakaPATCO. Kutawukhokhelwa tindleko tasetibhedlela kanti futhi laba labalimala batawutfola kweluleka kwengqondo lokuthola abantu labalimele etingotini temgwaco. Konke lokhu kuyoba ngumthwalo wePATCO. Somlomo sibonga ukuthi leti nkulunyiswano tiphume nesisombululo lesikhombisa ukukhathalela lemindeni nemiphakathi yakithi. Kanti futhi siyethemba ukuthi sitawuphothisa emanceba kulamalunga emndeni lathinzekile. Ngaloko-ke Somlomo, i-ANC ifisa sengathi emaphoyisa abambisene nebetempilo banganonophisa luhlelo le-DNA test kude imitimba yalabangasekho ikwadi kufihlwa kanti nemindeni ithole kuphumula. Ngaloko Somlomo nginxusa lendlu yesishayamthetho kusihlanganyele ne-ANC ekudududeni lemindeni lelahlekelwe. Ngiyabonga.
The question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the motion agreed to, as so agreed. Notices of motion, are there notices of motion?
So,
Honorable Shongwe, mute your mic.
I sing him, Chairperson. Ngimuyuthile mina ayisingimi lo lokhuluma ko Chair. Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I thought the Honorable Member was moving a notice of motion. Honorable Speaker, I rise to table a notice of motion for debate in the next sitting of the Legislature in terms of Rule 84, Sub-Rule 2 of the Rules and Orders of the House. Honorable Speaker, for quite too long, the outcry on the abuse, on the torture, on the brutality and killing of farm workers and farm dwellers in the province, especially in the area of Mkondo and Hertsibande in general, has not been addressed in a structured and coordinated manner. The killing of the Koga brothers by the heartless farmers in the Mbambun farm has raised a stark reminder of the racist and cruel treatment vented against workers and dwellers in the farms in the Hertsibande region. I therefore, Honorable Speaker, move that this House debate the following matters in the next sitting. To the critical policy gaps and weaknesses on the protection of the rights of farm workers and farm dwellers, the critical analytical overview of the extension of the Security of Tenure Act versus the constitutional right of farm dwellers and farm workers, Number 3, how we can use the upcoming expropriation of land without compensation to deal with the plight of farm workers and farm dwellers, and to also give dignity to the farm workers and the people that work and live in farms communities. And lastly, to make a critical assessment whether our oversight bodies and institutions like the legislature, parliament, government and departments and Chapter 9 institutions have made enough efforts to deal with matters related to people working and living in farms. I so move, Honorable Speaker. Thank you.
The motion is noted and will be dealt with accordingly. Are there any notices of motions? Formal motions. I am informed that there are no formal motions. We'll now proceed with the orders of the day. The Secretary shall read the first order of the day.
Order number 1, Policy and Budget Speech on Vote 1, Office of the Premier.
I now call upon the Premier, Honorable R.M. Tshwenitsipane, to deliver the policy and budget speech.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me take this opportunity and pass my greeting to your good self and the Deputy Speaker of the House, the Chief Whip of the ruling party, the honorable members of the Executive Council, honorable members of the Legislature, our head of departments led by the Acting Director General, Mr. Peter Nyoni, our Provincial and Treasury of Nehau who are in our midst today, our distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Speaker, it was on the 25th of June last year when I delivered the budget vote for the Office of the Premier before this August House under conditions that were neither predictable nor comprehensible. The COVID-19 pandemic was wreaking its devastating impact across the world, and we had entered a period of prolonged uncertainty. It was difficult to know what the world would look like in a short term and close to impossible to plan for the medium and long term. Today, we are still facing the challenges brought forth by the pandemic. However, the development of a vaccine has enabled us to plan for the medium to long term. What we can never be blind to is the fact that the COVID-19 pandemic has birthed a new normal for all people across this beautiful province. It is through the navigation of this new normal that we shall endeavor to continue to improve the quality of life and future for the people of the province of the rising sun. Madam Speaker, the last year has been a very challenging period for all of us. Whilst we have achieved remarkable success in our response to the pandemic by scaling up the quality of our health system to improve testing, tracing, quarantine, and treatment of COVID-19 patients, whilst at the same time trying to minimize the spread of infections across the province, we have not escaped the socio-economic ravages of the pandemic. Indeed, this pandemic has wreaked untold havoc to the people of Mpumalanga, with women, older persons, the youth, low-wage workers in the formal and informal sectors being the most disproportionately affected by the pandemic. Every worker, every business, and every corner of our province has been affected. A significant number of jobs have been lost. Those toiling in the informal economy, often without rights at work and lack of consistent social protection, have seen their earnings decline significantly. Women in particular have been hard hit, working in many of the most critically affected sectors, whilst also carrying the greatest burden of increasing levels of unpaid care work, the work of caring for their sick loved ones and their families. Young people, persons with disabilities, and so many others continue to face the tremendous difficulties. Many small and medium-sized enterprises, which are the engine of our economy, especially in the tourism industry, are facing an existential threat. The pandemic has exposed our own shortcomings and existing fragilities and fault lines. Our extended social security grant net have been critical in ensuring that we cushion what would have been a catastrophic impact on the most vulnerable cohort of our population. Our fiscal and monetary policies have been able to support the direct provision of resources to workers and households. The provision of health and unemployment insurance, scaled up social protection, and support to businesses have contributed significantly to prevent bankruptcies, insolvencies, and massive job losses. Madam Speaker, as I have indicated in the budget vote address for the Office of the Premier last year, the economy would have to go through 3 phases in an effort to return to pre-COVID economic trajectory. These phases are the response phase, the recovery phase, and the growth phase. Whilst these statements remain valid and is supported by historical and empirical scientific data, the emergence of different strains of the COVID-19 virus and the rise in infections across different time periods or waves, as they are commonly referred to, has compelled us to implement the aforementioned economic phases concurrently. As we continue to respond to new infections and new pandemic waves, we have adapted our recovery plans to respond to new challenges, as at the same time forge ahead the massive economic recovery projects that will propel us towards sustainable economic growth. As part of Mpumalanga's contribution towards compilation of the country's report on the socio-economic impact of COVID-19 pandemic, the Office of the Premier commissioned a research study to record the experiences and lessons of the province in tackling the COVID-19 pandemic. Key findings of the study are: the establishment of the Provincial Command Center ensured that the response to the pandemic was multi-sectoral and coordinated from the center; that the Primary Response Department, which is the Department of Health, prepared a robust strategy that ensured that not only government officials and health workers are protected, but the entire provincial population. The support from the National Department of Health and the World Health Organization, partners like Broadreach and Right for Care, ensured that the province followed national guidelines and regulations as per the Disaster Management Act; that the reprioritization of activities, in particular non-salary items, and the supply and distribution of necessary commodities and resources reduced the rapid spread of the virus; and of course, lastly, the collaboration between the departments of Agriculture, Rural Development, Land and Environmental Affairs, and Social Development in the distribution of food parcels in the province has effectively assisted in, especially amongst the depressed households. The report also took note of what needs to be implemented differently as we learn to live with the virus. This, amongst the others, includes the implementation of rotational system amongst healthcare workers to avoid fatigue, as this can lead to mistakes; the need to hire more staff in critical areas like testing labs and border posts; budgeting and purchasing of quality spray pumps for decontamination, respirator masks, and all essential equipment for responding to the pandemic. Readiness assessment of quarantine and isolation facilities. The long-term planning for isolation units in all hospitals to increase high care beds in the COVID-19 wards. And lastly, the development of the standard operating procedure defining integrated response activities to be carried out by the different pillars in the community. Madam Speaker, the state of the national disaster resulted in budget cuts across government and two major budget adjustment processes in the province which sought to mitigate the impact of COVID-19. The MEC for Finance, Economic Development and Tourism tabled the provincial special adjustment budget to this August House on the 21st of July 2020. This resulted in the retabling of the 2020-2021 plans in September 2020 and delays in finalizing our provincial 5-year plan. Subsequently, the second budget adjustment followed in October 2020, affecting mostly compensation of employees. The draft provincial 5-year plan for 2019-2024 is progressively implemented annually through the annual provincial program of action through the Executive Council, the implementation of the current approved 2021-22 provincial program of action is being monitored on quarterly basis. The negative impact of COVID-19 has necessitated that the provincial government reviews its provincial 5-year plan in line with the national 2019-2024 medium-term strategic framework that has since been reviewed in March 2021. In addition, the monitoring and evaluation framework for the provincial 5-year plan is being developed to track progress on outputs, outcomes, and impact of all interventions in the plan. The virtual executive Makutla sessions that took place early this year in February and March 2021 resolved that the provincial focus should be on rebuilding our economy after the devastating impact of the pandemic on our provincial economic outcomes. Part of the initiatives introduced was to develop the provincial economic recovery and reconstruction plan in line with the following policy imperatives. The South African Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan, which was adopted by national government in 2020, the address by President Cyril Ramaphosa to the joint sitting of Parliament, which was held on the 15th of October 2020, and the State of the Nation address, which was held the beginning of this year in February. The following are some of the key pillars of the MERRP. Planned massive rollout of infrastructure. This will entail the interventions and the Mpumalanga Infrastructure Master Plan, the Provincial Spatial Development Framework, and catalytic projects on basic services, social and economic infrastructure. Growth through industrialization, localization, and export promotion. This will be guided by the Mpumalanga Industrial Development Plan that seeks to diversify the economy into downstream manufacturing-based industries, sufficient, secure, and reliable energy supply, and green economy initiatives guided by the Mpumalanga Green Economy Development Plan. The employment stimulus interventions programs will target the strategic pillars of the SMME development strategy, which are development and human capital, business development, SMME regulatory framework, the township and rural economy stimulation, and lastly, the research and development. growth and recovery of tourism to be guided by both the national and provincial tourism sector recovery plans. Agriculture and food security will continue to strengthen the provincial agricultural output whilst ensuring food security for the country, gender and economic inclusion of marginalized groups within the province. The Executive Council, Madam Speaker, adopted this broad provincial economic recovery and growth plan already in July 2020. Currently, consultation with various external stakeholders is underway at the district level. Madam Speaker, every dark cloud has a silver lining. We are beginning to see the light at the end of the proverbial tunnel. Companies big and small and government have embraced innovation in light of the prevailing circumstances. Millions have adopted the working remotely in many cases with astonishing successes. Our immediate response has been to support enterprises that employ a large volume of workers in order to avert job losses and income decline. Secondly, our greater focus has been to ensure that workplaces are safe and do not pose a risk of becoming super spreader facilities. Thirdly, we have been mobilizing for a human-centered, green and sustainable inclusive recovery program that harnesses the potential of new technologies to create decent jobs for all and draws on the creative and positive ways companies and workers have adopted to these times. Our success will depend on our informed and well-timed action at all levels, making sure that we turn pandemic adversities and challenges into opportunities, adapting our medium-term framework strategies and Vision 2030 to respond to our rapidly changing environment. Honorable Speaker, freedom without the freedom of women in particular is not complete freedom. The emancipation of women from all bondages inherited from apartheid policies and patriarchy remains high on our agenda. In this regard, we shall not rest until all women in the province, including those in the country and the world, are completely free. It is for this reason that we are also continuing with our effort of mainstreaming gender equality and women empowerment into government programs and mobilizing civil society and other external stakeholders through the coordination of the provincial gender machinery. We are also alive to the fact that the pandemic has had a devastating social and economic consequences for women in particular. Research shows that the pandemic could reverse the limited progress that has been made on gender equality and women's rights, calling for us to put women's leadership and contribution at the heart of the resilience and recovery. Almost 60% of women in our province work in the informal economy, earning less, saving less, and thus at the greater risk of falling into poverty. As the economy faltered and businesses closed, millions of women's jobs have been eroded. Whilst women continue to lose formal remunerative employment, women's unpaid care work has increased exponentially as a result of school closures and the increased caring for those infected and affected by the pandemic. These factors combined avert the advancement of women's rights and access to opportunities, and by so doing exacerbate the perennial problem of gender parity. Progress lost on gender equality takes years to regain. Teenage girls out of school may never return, and we must guard against this disruptive phenomenon. We must put women and girls at the center of our efforts to recover from COVID-19. As a provincial government, we will play our part in advancing gender parity by ensuring that we improve our current 36.4% composition of women as senior management level to 50% by the end of this MTSF. We will do this by ensuring that all departments implement the gender responsive planning, budgeting, monitoring, evaluation, and auditing framework. Madam Speaker and honorable members, we must all acknowledge that climate change is part of the new normal we must traverse. Mpumalanga province is sensitive to the impacts of climate change and will bear the brunt of unmanaged energy transition processes. We are already facing socio-economic challenges of extremely high levels of joblessness, poverty, and inequality. Our resilience on coal currently poses serious risks to livelihoods and well-being, especially for the most vulnerable. These risks are well documented and include air and water pollution, land degradation, and the lack of economic diversification, which could become even more severe when inevitable happens and power stations are decommissioned. There are, however, many opportunities abound as the province undergoes a just transition from the over-resilience of coal energy in a manner that ensures economic diversification. Adequate environmental rehabilitation and addresses concerns of the workforce and local communities. Just transition from the current energy resources to low carbon emission-based economy must include social and economic restructuring that alters patterns of inequality, poverty, and incorporates those excluded from the mainstream of the economy. Madam Speaker, in order to increase foreign direct investment in the province, the Office of the Premier, together with DDET and MEGA, continues to lead trade promotion and investment initiatives. The Office of the Premier supports this area of work by establishing cooperation relationships with partner provinces across the world in order to increase trade and investment to the province. The province will be participating in a virtual roundtable discussion with business community in the United States of America in July 2021 as part of an effort to present available opportunities in the various sectors of the provincial economy. This initiative forms part of a drive to attract the needed foreign direct investment to the province. Performance information remains an important tool in monitoring progress towards achievements of our targets and goals. For these reasons, performance information must be credible, reliable, and accurate. In this regard, the development of the provincial performance monitoring system linked to the geographic information system as announced last year is also in progress. The process of appointment of a service provider will be finalized soon and the project will be accelerated. An amount of 5 million rand has been set aside to operationalize the information management hub and provincial performance monitoring system. This will take into account the current electronic quarterly performance reporting system, which is implemented by the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation throughout the country. Honourable Speaker, we are also pleased to announce that the Executive Council has finally approved the Provincial Evaluation Plan for 2020 to 2025 in line with the provision of the National Monitoring and Evaluation Policy Frameworks. Madam Speaker, as we battle the COVID-19 pandemic, we must not forget the worrying high prevalence of HIV infection across the province. The prevention of HIV infection amongst adolescent girls, boys, young women and men remains a priority for the province. Interventions to mitigate the impact of HIV infections have been expanded to all wards in all municipalities through the partnership with Presidential Emergency Prevention for AIDS Relief and the Global Fund. Madam Speaker, youth unemployment is one of the economic daunting challenges facing the province, with over 61% of its population aged between 18 and 35 years, falling under the expanded definition of unemployment. To respond to the challenges faced by young people across the province, we established the Mpumalanga Youth Development Fund that aims to provide a wide range of financial and non-financial support services to Mpumalanga youth-owned businesses. Furthermore, the Office of the Premier has developed a comprehensive Mpumalanga Youth Development Fund strategy, which serves as a blueprint to uproot the scourge of joblessness amongst the youth across the length and breadth of the province. The fund will, amongst other things, prioritize young women, persons with disabilities, and above all, reach out to youth residing in rural areas. The Youth Development Fund will increase youth participation in the economy, whilst the funded and youth-owned enterprises will work towards the reduction of the youth unemployment in the province. Young people without the requisite skills to develop bankable business plans but keen to establish businesses have been identified, and through targeted mentoring, coaching and training programs will be capacitated. An amount of 90 million rand, which includes the allocation for the previous financial year, has been allocated in this current financial year for supporting youth entrepreneurs. The project will be rolled out in a two-phase approach. The pilot phase is for the period of 3 years with 100% grant, and the full-scale phase, which will be in a form of a grant or a loan. The disbursement of the fund will be done through MEGA after the signing of the Memorandum of Agreement between OTP and MEGA, which is projected to commence before the end of July this year. Currently, 700 applications were received from the youth of Mpumalanga. The Office of the Premier has established the different work streams comprising of relevant skills to enhance our capacity to speedily and efficiently roll out the project, to ensure good governance, accountability, and integrity of the process. An oversight governance structure has been put in place by myself to ensure that everything runs smooth and seamlessly. All deserving youth of Mpumalanga are given equal opportunities across the length and breadth of the province. This structure will comprise of 3 members of the Executive Council, which I have appointed to oversee this matter of the disbursement of funds. Madam Speaker, the Provincial Youth Development Coordinating Forum is a multi-sectoral platform made up of a private sector, public sector, and civil society stakeholders dealing with the overall youth development agenda in the province. Will be convened quarterly in order to monitor progress on youth development in the province. As Mpumalanga province continues to feel the negative impact of the depressed economy, rising numbers of unemployment through the rise of gender-based violence and femicide, this state of affairs continues to have an adverse effect on the efforts and interventions to improve the performance of the provincial, local government, private sector, civil society, and other entities in order to improve the quality of life for the people of Mpumalanga. Honorable Speaker and members, the scourge of violence against women and children cannot be allowed to continue unabated. It is our duty to mobilize every segment of the community against this scourge, to direct and guide our fight against this scourge. The Office of the Premier will lead a process of provincializing the National Strategic Plan on GBVF. This process of developing the Provincial Strategic Plan on GBVF will commence in the second quarter of the 2021-22 financial year and be finalized by the end of the third quarter. In this regard, the Office of the Premier has embarked on a process of establishing a provincial task team on gender-based violence and femicide, which will be very instrumental in coordinating the implementation of the provincial strategy. The process will be finalized at the end of June 2021, and as the Premier of the province, I will co-chair the task team with one of the representatives from the civil society organization. The Office of the Premier will coordinate the sittings of Provincial Task Team, which will be convened quarterly to monitor the implementation of all GBVF-related programs and the implementation of the Provincial Strategic Plan on GBVF. Madam Speaker, in the current financial year, the OTP will compile and develop a detailed provincial assessment report on the status of empowerment and development of target groups since 1994 to 2020. The aim of the study is to establish a baseline and reflect on progress made in this regard since the advent of democracy. Honorable Speaker, honorable members, finally, the migration of the Office of the Status of Persons with Disabilities back to the Office of the Premier has come to its conclusion. The OTP has finally welcomed this migration from Department of Social Development. The desk will continue to monitor the mainstreaming of transformation issues in respect of persons with disabilities. The province has moved swiftly to respond to the President's clarion call to work towards improving the material conditions of ex-combatants. These are men and women who dedicated their youthful lives to uproot the scourge of deprivation, marginalization, thus fighting for the restoration of human rights to the majority of South Africans whose history was drenched in institutionalized racism and where access to services was predicated along color lines. Whilst being fully cognizant of the fact that defense, military, and military veterans are not provincial legislative competences as contemplated in Section 4 and 5 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa, as well as the scope, content, and applicability of the Military Veterans Act of 2011, with specific reference to Section 9 of the said Act. The Office of the Premier has deemed it appropriate to facilitate an effective coordinated provincial government-wide response that will culminate in the development of a comprehensive program of action to ameliorate the material conditions of ex-combatants resident in the province. This is in consonance with the existing legislative frameworks in respect of military veterans. To contribute towards alleviating the plight of ex-combatants, we have decided to establish the Premier's Military Veterans Advisory Committee. This committee will advise the Premier of Mpumalanga Province on high-level strategic and complex issues pertaining to the welfare of ex-combatants. The Office of the Premier has so far received 77 applications. The assessment process has commenced and will culminate into a process of subjecting the potential candidates into an interview which seeks to ensure their credibility and readiness to provide appropriate advice to the Premier as and when required. This process will be executed in tandem with the Department of Military and Veterans. Honorable Speaker and members, The reality of the need for technological advancement can no longer be denied and ignored. Information and communication technology and the fourth industrial revolution are part of us and will remain with us beyond our generation. If we are to improve the quality of lives of the people of Mpumalanga and make their day-to-day living convenient and easy, we need to embrace the fourth industrial revolution. In this regard, the Office of the Premier carried out a broadband feasibility study to assist to determine the exact requirement for broadband connectivity within the province. Based on the feasibility study, a 10-year broadband plan is currently under development. A second draft has been prepared, taking into consideration inputs from consultation sessions and is currently being subjected to scrutiny and alignment with national departments and the state IT agency. The primary aim of the 10-year broadband plan is to ensure that the currently underserviced and rural areas in the province are provided with sufficient connectivity. This will ensure that all citizens of Mpumalanga enjoy high-speed connectivity, thereby ensuring that the rural areas of the province enjoy the same benefits and access to education, health and services as their fellow citizens in the cities currently. The province has an aim of ensuring that at least 80% of the province enjoys access to the internet through high-speed broadband by 2024. The review of the anti-corruption strategy is still at an infancy stage, as consultation with all relevant stakeholders could not be undertaken due to stringent lockdown restriction, which minimize the movement of people and the related restrictions on gatherings. The province will finalize the process of reviewing and enhancing its provincial anti-corruption strategy to ensure alignment with the national strategy. The office continued to investigate reported cases of fraud and corruption impartially. We will continue to investigate and ensure implementation of recommendation to restore public confidence. Honorable Speaker, negative audit outcomes have been a thorny matter for the provincial government. To improve audit outcomes, the Office of the Premier will continue to support departments whose audit outcomes leave a lot to be desired. In 2020-2021, through the Shared Audit Services function, we were able to provide internal audit services to the 5 cluster departments. Furthermore, in its partnership with Provincial Treasury on improved audit outcomes, progress has been registered in the report of the Auditor General, which shows that 10 departments in the Mpumalanga Provincial Administration obtained unqualified audit outcome opinion for the financial year, which ended on the 31st of March 2020, as opposed to 9 from the previous financial year. The departments have developed remedial audit action plans to address all the funding raised by the Office of the Auditor General in the 2020-2021 audit. Progress on implementation of the audit action plans are being monitored by both the Internal Audit and Audit Committee on a quarterly basis. Furthermore, departments are expected to report to the Audit Committee on a quarterly basis on the progress made for both internal audit and Auditor General issues. The Office of the Premier will in 2021-2022 continue to provide internal audit services to these departments and monitor implementation of audit action plans to ensure the realization of improved audit outcomes. In this regard, we will review the efficiency and effectiveness of internal controls in order to assist in the strengthening of the control environment. We have successfully collaborated with Provincial Treasury to pilot a computerized invoice tracking system. This has assisted in ensuring that the office complies with the prescripts of paying suppliers within 30 days. Challenges with the system are being monitored for continuous improvement. We will continue with this partnership with Provincial Treasury to monitor that departments across provincial administrations and evaluate the process of payment of service providers within 30 days. These performance outcomes take into consideration our strategic focus for the next 5 years as detailed in our retable strategic plan for 2020-2025 and the annual performance plan for 2021-2022 tabled to this August House. It is therefore an honor, Madam Speaker, to table the budget of the Office of the Premier, and I accordingly request the House to approve the amount of 383,904,000 rand for the 2021-22 financial year allocated as follows. In Program 1, which is Administration, we are requesting the House to allocate 122,303,000 rand. In Program 2, which is Institutional Development, we are requesting yet again the House to allocate 85,072,000 rand. In Program 3, which is Policy and Governance, we are requesting the Legislature to appropriate 176,179,000 rands. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Nice, great, Premier.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier, for the well-delivered policy and budget speech. I will now allow the Secretary to read the second order of the day.
Order number 2, consideration of a report of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism on Vote 1, Office of the Premier.
I now call upon the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, Honorable T.M. Makaringe, to table the report.
Mkhomeri wa manana xipikara ntshama xitulu wa vatshama xitulu va la legislature manana Hlophe khensa nkarhi lowu mi nga ni nyika wona and yimile hale mahlweni ka n'wina tanihi mutshama xitulu wa komiti ya Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism ku kombela a yindlo leyi ku ri amukela mpfapfarhuto or budget leyi nga presentiwa hi ndunankulu manana Rifilwe Tsipana Mtshweni ku hi yona leyi nga ta tirhisa yona for lembe ximali leri nga ri ka rona. Inkomu.
Thank you very much. I am informed that there's no debate on this report. Now, the question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the report as tabled by Honorable Makaringe. Agreed to? So agreed. The Secretary shall read the third order of the day.
Order number 3, Policy and Budget Speech on Vote 2, Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature.
Now I call upon the Honorable Speaker of the Mpumalanga Legislature, Honorable MC Masilela, to deliver the policy and budget speech.
The Honorable J.J. Skosana, the Deputy Speaker, Honorable R.M. Tsweni, Premier of Mpumalanga Province, Chairperson of the House of Traditional Leaders of Mpumalanga, and all traditional leaders in attendance, members of the 6th Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature, members of the Executive Council, Acting Director General of Mpumalanga Provincial Government, Secretary to the Legislature, heads of departments, Acting Chairperson, Acting Secretary, and other leaders of the ANC in Mpumalanga. Special greetings to the Provincial Secretary of the ANC Women's League and all women in attendance, leadership of COSATU, SACP, and SANCO, the leader of the official opposition and other political parties represented in the legislature, esteemed guests and members of the public streaming live through all media platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, Sanbonani, Dumelan, Absheng, Luchani, Huyemore. I have the pleasure to table the 2021-2022 policy and budget speech of the Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature. The purpose of this policy statement is to articulate and give account on the fulfillment of our mandate, which is to hold the executive and other state organs accountable through oversight, public participation, and lawmaking. This policy statement shall outline our plans for the current financial year and progress made in the past financial year. Furthermore, the policy statement will undeniably focus on following up on commitments made as per the governing party manifesto priorities in ensuring an improvement in the quality of life for all our people. Honorable members, we table this budget speech during a very difficult period in the life of our nation, where the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the unresolved challenges which have led to deepening levels of poverty, inequality, and rising unemployment. Once again, as people, we are visited by this test of the human spirit. In the face of this adversity, more resilience is required from the state in particular and the society in general. This government, which is an expression of the will of the people, is therefore enjoined by history to adequately respond to this moment on behalf of present and future generations. We salute the South African people for facing COVID-19 with courage. However, we need to reiterate the call by government and civil society in general that people must continue to adhere to the COVID-19 protocols. Honorable Deputy Speaker and honorable members, let me take this opportunity to express our sincere gratitude to all frontline workers who have worked tirelessly to save and protect the lives of our people in a very risky environment. This policy and budget speech is presented a few days before the commemoration of the 35th anniversary of June 16, 1976, known as Youth Day. As per the political calendar of this democratic government, our painful memories redirect us to better confront the development challenges faced by the youth of our nation. We are led to revisit the conditions that inspired the youth to radical action against a draconian colonial system which denied humanity, belonging, and dignity of African indigenous people in South Africa. This is when colonial education was used as a mechanism to stifle the life potential of black children and guarantee an uninterrupted cheap labor force to feed the apartheid white-dominated capitalist system. We are therefore drawn to reevaluate the extent to which progress is being made in realizing our historical struggle for self-determination. We observe the existential reality of the majority of our people that the intersections of race and racial capitalism continue to generate deep inequalities, exclusions, exploitations, and dehumanization. That, as Richard Pithouse stated, South Africa is still a colonial creation that has not fully escaped the iron cage on which it was born. The expectation and call of the youth from this generation of leaders and public representatives is the unwavering pursuit of radical turn of the unfinished project of nation building, still entrapped in the snares of an imperial and global capitalist matrix of power. It is through this radical turn that we can resolve the racial, class, and gendered contradictions that continue to bedevil our society. What matters, therefore, as Karl Marx alluded, is not just a reading and conceptualization of our present situation, but to change it. Accordingly, as this legislature, our oversight work shall take keen interest on the Mpumalanga Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan as delivered by the Premium to Initsipane during a State of the Province address. We have also welcomed and noted the commitments made by all departments during delivery of policy and budget speeches over the past week. This recovery plan must inject the necessary agency towards a radical socio-economic transformation of the ownership, control, and management patterns of the economy in our province. We need a reconfigured economy which anchored on the needs and aspiration of the poor and working class people, the majority whom are Black, African, the youth, and women. It must be a reconstructed economy that will recalibrate the life potential and lived experience of our people. We are therefore challenged by the generation of 1976 as this lawmaking body to transform through democratic means the institution of power in our society that continue to resist and reproduce inequality and social differences. To this end, as an activist legislature, our immediate task is to refashion and re-engineer all our efforts to ensure clear government response to these pressing challenges. We aim to give strategic meaning to the legislature co-function as theater for oversight, and a space where, according to Nelson Mandela, we must be an instrument to create a better life for all, a vanguard in the fight for social change, whose primary task is the revolutionary transformation of society and of government itself, so that the stubborn colonial legacy of our divided past is dismantled. On institutional strategy, Honorable Deputy Speaker, informed by several political strategic guiding policy priorities of the governing party, the National Development Plan known as NDP, the State of the Nation and Province addresses and legislative sector priorities have since inception of this sixth legislature articulated the political and strategic path for the Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature. These strategic priorities include our tireless mission to ensure the following: a vibrant People's Assembly that intervenes, transforms society, and addresses the developmental challenges of our people. The effective oversight over the executive by strengthening the executive scrutiny of actions against the needs of our citizens. The participation of the public in the decision-making process on issues that affect their lives. An innovative and efficient parliamentary service and administration that enables members to fulfill their constitutional responsibility. And a healthy relationship between the legislature, government, and other organs of the state, which promotes efficient cooperative governance. On support to committees, in the exercise of our core mandate, Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature Oversight Model, known as MPLOM, continues to be our guide in the provision of oversight. In line with the Constitution, it charts an action plan for the legislature on best practices in the provision of support to parliamentary committees. Some important questions still require attention by this legislature and sector as a whole. If we are guaranteed the improved performance of committees and support to honorable members, these include whether our committees are well structured to ensure members adequately respond to our core mandate, whether there is sufficient administrative support to committees, whether committees are suitably resourced to enable members to execute their functions. These are just some of the primary questions to enable our committees to develop sharply in the execution of their task on behalf of our citizens. In this regard, the MPLOM identifies critical skills and tasks required to enhance oversight and maximize the impact of the work of the legislature. Hence, we have over the past financial year, amongst others, undertaken to align the business of the Select Committee on Public Accounts, known as COPA, with a respective vote. To this extent, we shall in the period ahead ensure the continuous training and development of members of the legislature and support staff to improve scrutiny and evaluation of government programs. On House Proceedings Enhanced, to ensure a professional House Proceedings Enhanced, we continuously aim to guarantee that our language services, production and reports are of high quality. In this regard, our language practitioners from Hansard attended specialized training with the University of Witwatersrand. This will ensure we improve the quality of translations and ensure timeous production of error-free verbatim reports of the House. On public participation, in line with our Freedom Charter's call that the people shall govern, the legislature continues to involve the public in its processes and programs through public hearings, petition processes, sector parliaments, sitting of the House, and initiatives such as taking legislature to the people, known as TLPs. However, under the current regulated environment of lockdown, as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and a shrinking budget in light of our dire economic situation, some reprioritization had to take place. We have had to adopt innovative means through the maximum use of technology to ensure that the public remains informed, involved, and educated. This was undertaken through increasing and enhancing communication channels. Our meetings, as well as the business of the House, have been broadcast through media and streamed live on YouTube channels, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Our website was redesigned to allow greater interaction and more accessible, user-friendly platform. Other important innovations include the establishment of the online e-petitions, which make it less necessary for the public to travel to the legislature to deposit or follow up on issues raised. We further aim to broaden and strengthen public awareness, involvement, and participation, particularly to citizens without access to technology or internet, through improving our links with local print media and community radio stations. Through these initiatives, we further seek to boost access to information and material for improved, meaningful public participation in oversight and lawmaking. On lawmaking, the Constitution empowers Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature to consider, pass, or amend any bill that may be before it. Accordingly, let me report that the Legislature duly processed 12 ordinary bills affecting the province. which are known as Section 76 bills and subordinate legislation in the 2020-2021 financial year. During the consideration of the bills, written and oral submissions were successfully received from members of the public and stakeholders, as contemplated in Section 118 of the Constitution. In compliance with the COVID-19 regulations, public hearings were mainly conducted virtually to ensure that communities and relevant stakeholders were consulted as broad as possible. Other platforms of soliciting submissions from members of the public included social media platforms and radio stations. 3 Section 76 pieces of legislation are currently before committees and will be finalized in the 2021-2022 financial year. The National Forest Amendment Bill, known as B11B of 2016, National Environmental Management Laws Amendment Bill, known as B14 of 2017, Local Government Municipal Structures Amendment Bill, known as B2 of 2019. 4 provincial bills were processed during the period under review. Mpumalanga Appropriation Bill, known as B1 of 2020, Mpumalanga Special Adjustment Appropriation Bill, known as B3 of 2020, Mpumalanga Second Adjustment Appropriation Bill, known as B4 of 2020, Mpumalanga Third Adjustment Appropriation Bill, known as B1 of 2021. Accordingly, in the period ahead, much focused attention will be paid to improving the capacity of members of the public to adequately participate in the lawmaking process. To ensure more impact on the ground, lawmaking is an important tool and instrument of democracy to ensure a transforming and more inclusive society. On financial governance, in light of the financial constraints and budget cuts faced by the legislature, we shall continue with more cost containment measures and reprioritization of programs. This we shall undertake without compromise to our core mandate and the fulfilling of our constitutional responsibility. Our changing world of work, which further came as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, has provided new opportunities for cost containment through maximum use of virtual platforms. Through these platforms, the legislature was able to make the necessary savings, which assisted in responding to budget pressures. In the fight against forms of corruption and maladministration, and in our commitment to be exemplary legislature, as indicated in the previous policy and budget speech, we introduced a process of subjecting all tenders to internal audit before awarding to ensure greater transparency in the tendering processes. This, amongst others, contributed to the legislature achieving a clean audit opinion in the 2019-2020 financial year. On Provincial Speakers Forum, in line with the sector priorities, the Mpumalanga Provincial Speakers Forum is a platform to share experiences, best practices, and dialogue among speakers at national, provincial, and local level. Whilst the process of formalizing this forum through a legislative sector bill is ongoing, the task remains to improve collaboration, cooperation, and support between Parliament, the legislatures, and municipal councils. As we approach the October 2021 local government elections, much public attention will be focused on this sphere of government. We support the continued government intervention in assisting the poorly performing municipalities. Local government remains a strategic center of power at the coalface of our people. To this extent, the financial viability and sustainability of some of our municipalities need urgent attention for more lasting solutions. We will, in support of municipalities, provide capacity building for the municipal public accounts committees as soon as they are put in place. Let me therefore take this opportunity and thank all the members of the Provincial Speakers Forum, which includes speakers of both district and local municipalities, for their active participation in the Speakers Forum. We send best wishes as they conclude their term of office. On members' affairs and support. Honorable members, during this financial year, the Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature will continue to provide capacity building to our members through the sector-based capacity building programs. To this end, our members have received training on the following programs: governance and leadership from the Wits University School of Governance, public affairs and African studies from the University of Johannesburg. This program enables members to sharpen their skills and meaningfully contribute in the execution of the constitutional mandate. We hereby congratulate all honorable members who have completed their academic programs under the difficult environment of COVID-19 lockdown. On Parliamentary Village, whilst the legislature is aware that the construction of the Parliamentary Village is in progress, we are concerned about the delay which poses a threat to the completion of the project. The Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport is committed to ensuring that the project is completed within this financial year, subject to availability of resources. We therefore urge the Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport and Provincial Treasury to address all project challenges to ensure completion without further interruptions or technical delays. This will ensure members' accommodation is centralized and delivered in a stable and safe environment. On social cohesion and nation building, known as Speaker's Legacy projects, the imperatives of building a democratic post-apartheid South Africa is an ongoing unfinished project. Our immediate task is, in line with the NDP, is build I open quote, social compact, close quote, and human solidarity behind a common vision of socio-economic transformation. In this regard, as per our institutional strategic objectives to ensure social cohesion and nation building, we have undertaken to reach out to the most needy, desperate communities and people in the province. Through the Speaker Legacy projects, opportunity is given to oversight and public participation as we interact directly with the most vulnerable members of our communities. These initiatives, centered on the extension of human solidarity, especially within the context of a devastating pandemic, aims to strengthen the social compact in promoting a more caring, safe, and cohesive communities. As I conclude, I am cognizant of the difficult moment of COVID-19, which changed the manner in which we conduct our lives. In solidarity with the families and friends who sadly lost their loved ones to this pandemic, your pain is our pain. While our hope is that the end is in sight, as we welcome government's vaccine program, may our society, out of this catastrophic experience, as Frans Fanon alluded, set afoot a new humanism, a turning over a new leaf, where the dignity and equality of all people is safeguarded as enshrined in our Constitution. We stand in the shoulders of giants like Charlotte Manya Matleke, whom we celebrate and honor during this year, 2021. Inspired by her struggles for liberation of women and African people in particular, we are enjoyed to reclaim our place under the sun. Honorable members, I therefore present to you and request this sitting to appropriate the 2021-2022 financial year the amount of 376,813,000 rand and is allocated to the two programs as follows. Program 1, which is administration, 181,393,000 rand. Program 2, which is parliamentary business, 195,420,000 rand. Finally, let me take this opportunity to thank the Deputy Speaker for his continued support and partnership, the Chief Whip of the Majority Party, the presiding officers, leaders of political parties, and all members of the Legislature for your valued contribution and support. The Honorable Premier, Mayor Refilwe Mtsweni-Tsipane, and members of the Executive Council for your continued cooperation and hard work, making the business of the Legislature run more smoothly. Let me also take this opportunity to announce the recently appointed Secretary to the Legislature, Mr. Hubert Shabangu. We wish him all the best as he executes his new assignment. We further acknowledge and thank the management and staff of the Legislature that continuously ensure professional administrative support to all members of the Legislature. Lastly, let me thank my family, which remains my pillar of strength and support. I table the policy and budget statement for the financial year 2021-2022 and request the House to appropriate and approve the amount as proposed. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the well-delivered policy and budget speech. Now, the Secretary shall read the fourth order of the day.
Order number 4, consideration of a report of the Select Committee on Legislature Oversight on Vote 2, Mpumalanga Provincial Legislature.
I now call upon the Chairperson of the Select Committee on Legislature Oversight, Honorable P.V. Mlombo, to table the report. VP Mlombo. You want to outsource?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Acting Speaker, Chair of Chairs. I rise on behalf of the committee to table the report for acceptance by the House. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mlombo. I am informed that there is no debate on this report. Now the question is before the House whether to agree to adopt the report as tabled by Honorable F.V. Mlombo. Agreed to? So agreed.
Agree.
The Secretary shall read the fifth order of the day.
Order number 5, policy and budget speech on Vote 3, Provincial Treasury.
I now call upon Honorable MEC for Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, Honorable P.V. Mkajwa, to deliver the policy and budget speech.
Thank you very much, Chair of Chairs. Honorable Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Honorable Premier Refilwe Mtsweni-Tsipane, colleagues in the Executive Council, Chief Whip of the Majority Party, Honorable members of the Provincial Legislature, Acting Director General, Head Official of Provincial Treasury, and all senior government administrators, the leadership of the trade unions, citizens of Mpumalanga, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my greatest honor to present to this August House the policy priorities and budget for Vote 3 Provincial Treasury. This budget is presented in tandem with the 25 years commemoration of the historic adoption of the first democratic constitution of the Republic by the democratically elected representatives of the people of South Africa. The Constitution positioned itself as a strategic framework guiding the work of the democratic government in its quest to push back the legacy of apartheid and build a state capable of executing its responsibilities of pursuing a developmental agenda in the interest of the people. Delivering the Presidency Budget Vote 3 on the 3rd of June 2021, President Cyril Ramaphosa expressed a view that a capable state is critical to development, service delivery, and to strengthening cooperative governance. We continue to canvass for a capable developmental state with the character of public officials underpinned by ethics, professionalism, accountability, and the utmost respect of public money. The disruptions of the black swan events of COVID-19 reinforces our resolve to forge ahead with our plans and unwavering commitment to pursue growth and development. This budget vote forms part of the ongoing work of the provincial government in its quest to contribute to the policy discourse hinging on the ideas of the developmental state, which is interventionist in character. According to the American author Professor Chalmers Johnson, the developmental state takes place when the state has a focused role on the growth and development of the economy and undertakes necessary policy measures to accomplish this long-term objective. Despite the inherent challenges and the impact of the coronavirus, the Provincial Treasury has been working tirelessly in ensuring that fiscal policy is used to respond decisively to the hardships of confronting citizens. As we forge ahead with our resolve to rebuild our economy and set the province in the development trajectory, we need not be oblivious of the Indlulamiti scenarios of 2030. The year 2030 for the Indlulamiti scenarios was chosen to coincide with the National Development Plan timelines and those of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Indlulamiti scenarios posits that there are three sets of possibilities, three stories of how South Africa's future as a cohesive and coherent nation might unfold. The three scenarios speaks about is bourgeois, an enclaved bourgeois nation, optimizing a loose-limbed and jumpy with a frenetic edge. Is bourgeois is a South Africa torn by deepening social divides, daily protest, and cynical self-interest. The second one is Nile Walk, a nation in step with itself. In a precise sequence of steps, this scenario choreographs a vision of a South Africa where growing social cohesion, economic expansion, and a renewed spirit of constitutionalism gets South Africa going. The third one being the Kwara, a floundering falls down. In a nation torn between immobility and restless energy, and Kwara is the name for a demoralized land of disorder and decay. Honorable Speaker, if the stage was set, I was going to demonstrate these tenses. President Ramaphosa remarked during the launch of the South African Scenario 2030 that those who have the means to help build a better nation to resist the role of spectator and use the scenarios to move from the armchair to the drawing board. We will, in this context, continue to enhance internal capacity, manage institutional performance, and ensure qualitative support on PFMA and MFMA to departments, public entities, and municipalities in the quest to build a better nation. In terms of sustainable resource management, Honorable Speaker, a fundamental task of the government is to respond to the socio-economic needs of the society, be it education, healthcare, roads infrastructure, child welfare, amongst others. The government provides these needs through borrowing from the markets and tax revenue from national and provincial sources. It is no secret that the low economic growth precipitated by the effects of the necessary lockdown measures has impacted the revenue sources. National Treasury implemented significant budget cuts due to the more than 300 billion reduction in the wage bill from 2020 and 2021 to 2023 to 2024 fiscal period. As a result, the provincial equitable share will be reduced to 205.9 billion over the 2021 MTF, and the provincial contribution is expected to be 16.4 billion over the same period. It is worth noting that about 85% of provincial equitable share reductions for provinces are effected on compensation of employees, with the provincial contribution at 14.6 billion over the MTF. Local government equitable share reduction on a national level amounts to 14.7 billion over the 2021 MTF. At the provincial level, equitable share is projected to grow at an average annual rate of 4.4% over the MTF. As a result, components of the local government equitable share that benefits poor and rural municipalities will grow in line with inflation. Conditional grants are growing above inflation at 7.3% over the MTF, and the province must take advantage of this growth by spending all allocated funds and reap maximum benefit. The infrastructure spending is, however, protected from the reductions, except where there is evidence for perpetual underspending. To this effect, we call upon all infrastructure implementing departments to ensure prudent spending and deliver quality products. Funds should strictly be utilized for the purpose for which they are intended. It is against this backdrop that the Minister of Finance indicated in his budget vote on the 20th of May 2021 that we must continue to pursue a balanced and prudent fiscal strategy in order to stabilize the public finances. This is a necessary and urgent task for all, especially the budget offices in all departments, public entities, and municipalities. In terms of revenue collection, the country is facing a hard economic climate. As a result, we are experiencing low economic growth, which translates to less revenue at national and provincial levels. As a province, we collected 1.7 billion on revenue for the last financial year. This is hardly enough to offset budget cuts in the recent period. For the 2021-22 MTF, we have projected to collect just over 5.6 billion. We will work together with the Department of Community Safety, Security and Liaison to review the process flow of the motor vehicle license and registration and install cash, secure and merchants devices to close leakages in our registration authorities. We will further conduct benchmarks with other provinces to identify new sources from which revenue can be enhanced and maximized. All other departments must continually review their systems to improve and explore new revenue streams to augment the receipt from national fiscus. In terms of infrastructure delivery, Honorable Speaker, the proposed zero-based budgeting requires a rigorous analysis of infrastructure budgeting and the associated expenditure. With infrastructure deemed a cornerstone of the economic recovery, every rand invested must be backed by real calculations to maximize the achievement of socio-economic objectives. The success in turning around the impact of COVID-19 through infrastructure development and maintenance will be highly reliant on the leadership by Provincial Treasury, appropriate talent, structures, and culture within the provincial administration. The recent launched Infrastructure Build Anti-Corruption Forum seeks to bring confidence in the procurement of infrastructure and its associated delivery. In an effort to realize better infrastructure investment, the government has created the budget facility for infrastructure funding, which seeks to have infrastructure investment to about 10% of the GDP. As things stands, the infrastructure investment within the province is around 10% of the annual allocation. Provincial Treasury will endeavor to keep this quantum of investment. We have already supported the submissions of the provincial departments to budget facility for infrastructure funding and to Infrastructure South Africa for consideration of the investment pipeline. In terms of asset and liability management, Honorable Speaker, our 5-year strategic plan requires us to leap into the future by taking advantage of the technological advances to digitalize financial systems, hereby improving productivity and ensuring efficient use of limited resources. COVID-19 has taught us that automation is the way to go. Accordingly, we have introduced process automation, which has automated all the business processes in the provincial administration by utilizing modern technologies and ICT to create a collaborative, communication-based, transparent and sustainable environment for our citizens and government. Virtual engagements, automation of financial statements, electronic leave management, and invoice tracking systems have already been introduced and utilized by departments in the 2020-2021 financial year. The invoice tracking system in particular will assist us in ensuring that suppliers are paid within 30 days, and that non-compliance is detected and that those responsible are held accountable. Detailed planning for the second phase of the project is underway, which entails, amongst others, e-procurement for the procurement value chain in its entirety, implementing a system for the rotation of suppliers, electronic document submission that will eliminate contact through papers given the new normal brought by COVID-19 pandemic, e-recruitment that will allow our citizens to submit employment applications online, and revenue collection systems at the point of sale, which this will address, Honorable Speaker, the complaints of our citizens that in most cases, same suppliers get work with our government. All these systems will result in a long-term efficiency benefits for the province. In terms of supply chain management, Honorable Speaker, supply chain management is a major challenge in departments, municipalities, and public entities, which leads to qualified audit opinions. The Provincial Treasury will ensure that this function is improved. All stakeholders will be expected to cooperate. Our efforts will focus on the following: training of bid committees, effectiveness of preventative controls, training on contract management, timely implementation of procurement plans, SCM compliance, particularly on the National Treasury issued instruction, notes, and Treasury regulations, and lastly, the compliance with the PFMA and MFMA provisions. In order to improve on financial governance and avoid unnecessary litigations, the Provincial Treasury will introduce probity audits for high-value and high-risk bids throughout the provincial administration. We call upon all departments to take advantage of these training sessions. We will be organizing to hone the skills of the financial management practitioners. We will be working with different sitters in this regard so as to tap into resources at their disposal in order to massify this program. Departments, entities, and municipalities must ensure that they employ suitable qualified officials in the financial management discipline. We must take this area of work very serious if we are to change the landscape of our province. In terms of municipal finance support, Honorable Speaker, local government performance has consistently declined despite financial injection, capacity building, and enabling legislation and regulations. We have thus agreed together with the Department of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs on the following game changers to address the municipal performance failures. That being to support municipalities to develop credible funded budget and improve the functioning of the entire revenue value chain. Build and further augment capacity in municipalities to fully implement the municipal standard chart of accountants to improve budgeting, transacting, and reporting. Follow up on monthly procedures that municipalities are supposed to perform, especially on bank reconciliations. Review the functionality of supply chain management units in municipalities and focus on improving the oversight and control environment in our municipalities. In an effort to improve compliance on systems of internal control, we will support municipalities on records management and proper filing of documents to have complete, relevant, and accurate information for financial reporting. The Provincial Treasury and COGTA have entered into a divorceless marriage in order to improve performance, oversight, and consequence management. The truth of the matter is that municipalities must do their part. Therefore, we call upon all finance officials, CFOs, and accounting officers to restore the pride and integrity of our municipalities by rededicating and committing themselves to their work. We also call upon all councils to play their part and support the financial management value chain in its entirety. And it's also important on this point, Honorable Speaker, to encourage our councils to continue encouraging our people to pay for their rates and taxes. On financial governance, in her State of the Province address, the Honorable Premier Memrifilum Tsonitsipane said, this administration will strive to give our people the confidence they are looking for in the management of public funds. We will, Honorable Speaker, continue to support and enhance the work of governance structures across the province to effectively perform their oversight and assurance role in the interest of the people of Mpumalanga. The Provincial Risk Management Unit will focus on monitoring and evaluating the functionality of risk management committees and assist stakeholders in identifying and managing critical risk within the supply chain management, asset management, including recurring issues that mostly contribute to the negative audit outcomes. The Provincial Treasury is also partnering with the Institute of Risk Management South Africa with the intention to establish a regional structure, facilitate capacity development programs for practitioners, and further improve the risk maturity within the province. The audit committees fulfill a vital role in corporate governance to ensure that integrity of reporting, internal controls, and identification and management of risk. The Provincial Internal Audit Unit will evaluate the effectiveness of audit committees and provide feedback to the relevant accounting officers. We appeal to all committees to remain steadfast in their oversight duty by providing department assessment and assurance on the implementation of the government programs. Properly functional internal audit units provide valuable support to departments, municipalities, and public entities as part of the combined assurance framework. Key controls, high and emerging risk areas must be assessed and recommendations made for improvement implemented without any further delays. All accounting officers and chief financial officers must support and be seen to be implementing the recommendations of the assurance practitioners and committees to improve financial management across the system. In terms of improving financial reporting and accountability, Honorable Speaker, accurate and complete financial statements underpin the democratic principles of public accountability and transparency. We will focus on strengthening the capacity of officials to prepare the annual financial statements through training on general recognized accounting practices. This initiative will help to improve institutional reporting, compliance with disclosure requirements, and reduce the material adjustment findings on financial statements. In addition, we will monitor the readiness of provincial departments and entities on preparing the AFS and compiling appropriate reference working paper files to be ready for the audit process. Through this support, we aim to maintain a clean audit outcome as an institution. We will also support the debt, OTP, MRTT, DADLIA, and MTPA to also strive for clean audits at the end of the current financial year. These departments need to eliminate the findings on their audit reports and improve on their control environments with a sense of urgency. In terms of improving capacity of financial management practitioners, Provincial Treasury will continue to implement capacity development programs targeting financial practitioners to boost the profile and performance in all aspects of the financial administration. Our partnership with the South African Institute of Professional Accountants, which aims to professionalize the financial management practitioners within the provincial government, is on course. 27 practitioners have been certified professional accountants so far. We plan to register 15 more practitioners in the 2021-22 financial year. We will this year bring on board the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants to increase the number of professional accountants in the system. In addition, we plan to involve other professional bodies in relation to risk management, auditing, supply chain management, and others. In terms of the budget allocations per program, Honorable Speaker, Program 1, Administration is allocated a budget of 111.3 million. Program 2, Sustainable Resource Management, received 663.8 million to maintain a sustainable budget structure critical to preserving the provincial budget and assisting us to realize a desirable societal impact of the public finances, including infrastructure delivery. Program 3, Assets and Liability Management, gets 235.7 million. Program 4, Financial Governance share is 70 million to embedded good financial governance practices throughout the provincial administration. The total appropriated budget for Vote 3, Provincial Treasury, for the 2021-2022 financial year amounts to 481,057,000 rand. Honorable Speaker, as I conclude, let me take this opportunity and thank the Honorable Premier Refilo Tsipane for your leadership and counsel, and my colleagues in the Executive Council for their support, Chairperson and all members of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism for your frank engagements and guidance on the plan of the department. I have had a good tough, hectic and stint at the helm of the Provincial Treasury thus far, and for that I will want to profusely thank the head of the Provincial Treasury, Ms. Kukumashiteng, management and staff in the office of the MEC for their commitment and professional support, and last but not least, the leadership of the African National Congress for giving policy clarity that advances people's aspirations of a better life for all. I hereby table the policy and budget vote 3, Mpumalanga Provincial Treasury for the 2021-2022 financial year for consideration by the esteemed House. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mkachwa, for the well-delivered policy and budget speech. The Secretary shall read the sixth order of the day.
Order number 6, consideration of a report of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism on Vote 3, Provincial Treasury.
I now call upon the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, Honorable Makarenge, to table the report.
Honorable Speaker, as a chairperson and on behalf of the Portfolio Committee on Premier's Office, Finance and Economic Development and Tourism, I hereby table this report and lobby the House to consider this report as it has been presented by Honorable B.V. Mkhanjwa for Provincial Treasury.
I am informed that there is no debate on this report. Now the question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the report as tabled by Honorable Makarenge. Agree to? As so agreed. The Secretary shall read the 7th order of the day.
Order number 7, policy and budget speech on Vote 8, Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport.
I now call upon the MEC for Public Works, Roads and Transport, Honorable Lachminarain, to deliver the policy and budget speech.
Honorable Speaker, Ms. M. Masilela, Honorable Deputy Speaker, Mr. J. Skosana, Honorable Premier, Ms. Rifilwe Msweni Tsipane, Acting DG, Mr. Nyoni, my colleagues in the Executive Council, honorable members of this esteemed August House, Honorable Chief Whip of the ruling party, Mr. Fidel Mlombu, Honorable Chief Whips of opposition parties, Honorable Chairperson of the House of Traditional Leaders, Nkosi Ngomane, members of the traditional leaders present, executive mayors and members of mayoral committees present, Head of Department, Mr. Charles Marolo, management team, all employees of the department, including my most responsible and committed staff, heads of departments and chief executive officers at entities, all people in attendance, including my partner and those participating through digital platforms. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Madam Speaker, allow me to express my profound sense of humility and gratitude for the opportunity to present the 2021-2022 Policy and Budget Speech, Vote 8, which is coincidentally my maiden speech as an executive authority of the Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport. I am fully conscious of the mammoth responsibility bestowed upon me and the management team to continue delivering the mandate of the Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport. Our commitment finds expression in the words and deeds of our gallant heroes and heroines who sacrificed all in their power against a violent racist regime, but always understood their historical mission to dismantle the apartheid regime and break the chains of structural oppression on the basis of race, gender, and class. Honorable Speaker, as we celebrate Youth Month, we remember the gallant fighter of our struggle and the first president of the ANC Youth League, after the unbanning of the ANC, the late Peter Mokaba, who passed on 19 years ago. He inspired the youth of this country, inside and outside the ANC, when he said, I open quote, "The support of the youth for the ANC is based on the Freedom Charter. It is not based on loyal support, but a convinced support that understands the ANC." Unquote. In honor of Peter Mokaba, the youth of this province is called upon to celebrate Youth Day under the theme, the year of Charlotte Mateke, growing youth employment for an inclusive and transformed society. This is a youth that is armed with political acumen of Comrade Peter Mokabe's caliber. Madam Speaker, Mama Charlotte Mateke was an activist and the first African woman to graduate with a degree. She set up an employment agency for Africans in Johannesburg and was the first black woman to become a parole officer for juvenile delinquents. She fought tirelessly against all forms of oppression, armed with nothing but her determination to lay down her own life, that we shall find no rest and shall, with vigor, confront our own historical mission of eradication, the triple oppression of our time, race, class, and gender. Our dedication should find expression in our decisions and actions while being cognizant of the legislative prescripts and policy framework that guides our government in pursuit to improve the lives of our communities. Madam Speaker, poverty, unemployment, and inequality continues to inflict pain and suffering to the lives of our communities. And it is my humble submission that these bread and butter issues can no longer be used to score political points or demean each other in our debates. These are emotional issues that should actually draw us closer, utilize our collective wisdom to ultimately find long-lasting solutions. The fiscal constraints and volatile environment we find ourselves under should motivate us to work harder to improve the lives of our communities. We are compelled to be creative, think out of the box concerning how to address this ticking time bomb of youth unemployment. It is again my humble submission that we should resist a temptation to seek easy solutions to complex issues under this difficult economy and political epoch. We should rather use this opportunity to reconnect with our communities in a more meaningful manner and understand that our role is to deliver services, for we have always understood that people are active agents of their own liberation. Oliver Tambo once said the following about the challenges of running a government, and left it upon us to submit to the demands of the people or focus on delivering services as mandated. He articulated by saying, open quote, Comrades, you might think it is very difficult to wage a liberation struggle. Wait until you are in power. I might be dead by then. At that stage, you will realize that it is actually more difficult to keep the power than to wage a liberation war. People will be expecting a lot of services from you. You will have to satisfy the various demands of the masses of our people. Close quote. We are here today to present our fight plan. For we know that withdrawing will be a betrayal to the aspirations and sacrifices made by our forebears and the generation that laid the foundation for us to be in this august house. We are presenting our plans within the context of a deteriorating macroeconomic environment, while on the other hand, the demands are forever increasing. In this regard, we want to extend our sincere gratitude to the various communities who call us on a daily basis, demanding services, that despite their grave situation, they continue to have faith, trust, and confidence in us that we are working across the clock to address their issues. We are fully conscious of the fact that their patience will soon wear out if we fail to respond with a high degree of urgency. Madam Speaker, the world has been in pandemic mode for over a year, and the COVID-19 virus continues to spread in South Africa and around Mpumalanga. More worrisome is that the third wave is starting to engulf the country. It is therefore essential that recommended measures to control the spread of COVID-19, including social distancing, washing of hands, good ventilation, and wearing of masks, are consistently implemented by all of us. Honorable members, the third wave has a potential of undermining the Mpumalanga Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. Equally, it further puts us at risk of achievement of socio-economic outcomes envisaged in the NDP. We have learned a lot since being on lockdown level 5, and amongst these is that service delivery must continue. We need to bolster our efforts to meet the social and economic challenges of the province. Madam Speaker, we are also working with various stakeholders to provide and extend a wide range of essential goods and services, that is coal supply, public transport, both during the pandemic and into the vital economy recovery phase. I'm therefore proud of the efforts of our employees, partners, and stakeholders. These brave men and women are amongst many public servants and private individuals who continue to be at the coalface of this pandemic. Madam Speaker, amidst the coronavirus pandemic, Mpumalanga was struck by Tropical Storm Eloise in January 2021. This too was declared a national state of disaster after assessment of the damage caused by strong winds and floods. In a State of the Province address, Honorable Premier Ms. Refiwe Msweni-Tsipane said, I open quote, "Roads and bridges are like the arteries of transport network, without which the economy cannot function." Close quote. The provincial response to the flood damage is a standout example of our strength in working together and collaborating across government. The estimated cost for repair, restoration, and upgrading of important transport infrastructure, including low-level bridges, is 1.1 billion rand, which should have been funded through the National Disaster Rehabilitation Fund. However, this fund has been depleted by the country's health and economic responses, and as a result, the affected provinces were directed to reprioritize internal budgets. Honorable Speaker, in March 2021, after the first COVID-19 positive case, the department took unprecedented actions to avoid a total collapse of its operations. A COVID-19 steering committee was established to coordinate departmental mitigating strategies. As the health, safety, and well-being of our employees remains our highest priority, we revised our occupational health and safety policy to be in line with the prescribed health protocols. Also critical was the appointment and training of compliance officers, safety representatives, and occupational health and safety committees. The department employed 158 young people on contract to assist with these responsive initiatives. Despite the above-mentioned measures, a total of 129 staff members were infected, and sadly 6 passed on due to complications. May the souls of those who are departed rest in eternal peace. Honorable members, as the implementing agent of provincial infrastructure, we need a radical approach to service delivery amidst the current challenges. A capable Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport is the best placed to facilitate an inclusive economic growth and creation of mass employment. This calls us to have a complete rethink of how to build a capable, ethical, and developmental state. In our endeavor to do so, we must answer the following critical questions. 1, how do we reclaim our mandate? And 2, how do we respond to a digitized future? Madam Speaker, the Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport should have the internal capacity to patch a pothole, to fix a broken door, and attend to a burst pipe without outsourcing these services. We are therefore going to resuscitate our building and roads maintenance teams and construction units as part of building capacity of the state. In addition, I have directed the Government Motor Transport Program to introduce efficiencies that will improve the overall provincial fleet management. This will result in the revival of mechanical workshops with the medium-term and expenditure framework period. Honourable members, the Executive's Council's decision to suspend the provincial moratorium on filling of vacant posts is a step in the right direction. The department has advertised 112 positions, which are service delivery focused, following a phased bottom-up approach. These are technical positions at an operational level, which include artisans, boilermakers, and road workers. The position of head of department has been filled to enhance accountability and good governance within the department. Building technical capacity in the public sector is a multi-year effort, and the foundation to strengthen such has been laid within the department. Our internship and learnership programs are aimed at providing work experience to young people. In the current financial year, we have appointed 150 interns and 70 learners. Through the Young Professional Program, the department appointed 42 graduates in various disciplines of the built environment. This is a mentorship program aimed at assisting these candidates to register as professionals. This we are doing in partnership with the Department of Public Works and Infrastructure and the Council for the Built Environment. We endeavor to do much more in this area of work. In partnership with Construction, Education and Training Authority, we are targeting to enroll 1,000 young people to do maintenance of public infrastructure. These programs will not only have a major positive impact on the skills profile of the province, but will also assist in dealing with poverty and high youth unemployment rate. Madam Speaker, working remotely and with minimum physical presence at work, the department has to be innovative, creative, and think outside the box. Our information technology unit had to roll out access to the necessary hardware, software, and support to enable most of the workforce to work from home. Going forward, we need sustained investment in digital services to ensure preparedness and resilience against future disasters. In this regard, the department is exploring the use of drones to enhance project oversight and monitoring. This shift will help build the ideal public service envisaged in the National Development Planning. Honourable members, we want to build a department that is performance-driven, service delivery-focused, people-orientated, litigation-proof, stakeholder-orientated, and prescript-compliant, including timeless payment of valid invoices. In this context, we need to improve the image, reputation, and restore the credibility of the department. As we manage infrastructure procurement, various internal controls are in place to mitigate against high risk of fraud and corruption. These are complemented by detailed processes on how to report suspected cases. In this regard, we applaud Minister Patricia de Lille for launching the Built Anti-Corruption Forum, which seeks to step up the fight against fraud within the sector. Madam Speaker, the construction sector has been adversely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Infrastructure projects under planning and procurement were delayed due to budget constraints, and those under construction had to be reassessed to determine whether they could still be delivered, considering budgetary prioritization towards the health sector. Notwithstanding this, the department has made great strides in fulfilling its mandate to deliver social infrastructure and also worked very hard at improving its implementation of capital projects. However, there is still room for improvement. For the 2020-2021 financial year, the Public Works Program delivered over 2.2 billion rand worth of infrastructure projects. This resulted in the completion of 467 designs, and 459 projects, both capital and maintenance. In the main, these projects include 441 basic services and sanitization infrastructure implemented in public schools. In addition, 12 critical health infrastructure projects were completed, including the construction of 2 new clinics, which is in Oakley and Kamdladla. Also notable, several repairs and alterations were done to converting existing structures to COVID-19 isolation and quarantine facilities. Other major milestones include the completion of Tula Mahashe's Children's Room, Mkangala District Office, Phase 2B, and 3 branch offices being Kriel, Mashishing, and Agincourt. In the previous financial year, the construction of the Sports Focus School of Excellence, which is the High Altitude Training Center, commenced in Nimakazeni local municipality. The first phase of this project includes construction of external bulk infrastructure, and the subsequent phases are expected to commence in 2021-2022 financial year. Madam Speaker, a total of 415 building infrastructure projects are planned for completion in the 2021 and 2022 financial year. The breakdown of projects per client department are as follows: 359 in terms of education, 16 for the Department of Health, 18 for Culture, Sport and Recreation, and 18 for the Department of Social Development. It should further be noted that the main buildings at the Mpumalanga International Fresh Produce Market and the Mpumalanga Parliamentary Village are also due for completion this year. The Mpumalanga International Fresh Produce Market will create a platform for agri-hubs to supply produce and present local and international market access. Honorable members, the department as a custodian of immovable asset is responsible for the maintenance of all state-owned buildings. In the current financial year, amongst the key activities is the upgrading of the KwaMhlanga Government Complex using in-house capacity. This is in line with the 2020 SOPA pronouncement that encourages deployment of TVET and MRTT graduates, as well as the Department of Correctional Services to maintain all government buildings. Madam Speaker, the Mpumalanga Provincial Government has invested 11.9 billion rand in transport infrastructure in the previous medium-term strategic framework. Over the 12 months, several notable outputs were registered by the transport infrastructure program. A total of 62 lane kilometers of roads were rehabilitated. 3 integrated rural mobility and access projects were completed, and 5.6 kilometers of municipal roads were paved. More significantly, the rehabilitated kilometers include 2 important tourist routes and several coal haulage roads. Honorable members, the recent flood damage has further exacerbated the need for additional funding. Notwithstanding this, I am pleased to announce that the detailed design for the Tekwane to Kanyamazane Bridge has now been completed. The project is currently on procurement phase, and construction is planned to commence in July 2021. Madam Speaker, transport infrastructure has been and continues to be a major focus of the department, with more than 1.6 billion rand of funding allocated to capital infrastructure projects in the current financial year. There are 11 transport infrastructure projects that are currently ongoing from the previous year. The following 6 projects are planned for completion this year. First one being the rehabilitation of road D2975 from P258 of 1 to Danchi Police Station, upgrading of road D3973 between Hoshani and Marit, light rehabilitation of D2486 from N2 to Klipval, rehabilitation of road P95 of 1 between Verena Crossing to Gauteng Boundary Phase 2, upgrading of road D281 between Volksrus and Dachakral, rehabilitation of road D3930 from Akonhoek to D3932 at Kluvukani Phase 1. The following new transport infrastructure projects will commence during the financial year 2021-2022. That is rehabilitation of sections of road P8 of 1, which is your R36 between Mashishing and Bambi, Phase 3, upgrading of road D481 Ebuhleni to Manar between Moy Plus and Ekulundeni, rehabilitation of road D2950 from R571 past Mananga, rehabilitation of Coal Hall Road P2901, which is your R555, from D2669 to D2821, the reconstruction of the Kumani Bridge on D4422 near Chula Mahashe, and the upgrading of bridge on D440 over Sand River near Role Village. We have also made available 182 million rand for paving of 19 kilometers of provincial and some of the critical municipal roads for this financial year. These paving projects are located in the following municipalities: Bushbuck Ridge, Dr. J.S. Maroka, Nkomazi, Mbombela, Albert Lutuli, Mkondo, and Tembisile Hani. Several other preventive and routine maintenance projects will also be implemented in an effort to preserve the provincial road network. Implementation of these projects will also ensure that polling stations are accessible come local government elections on the 27th October 2021. Honourable members, this year will be a renewed focus and adoption on a hybrid model in pursuance of broad transport infrastructure outcomes. The department will utilize internal maintenance teams on low traffic volume roads. However, term contractors will be used on medium to high volume roads as part of a contractor development. Mechanized vehicles will be used to patch potholes on strategic network routes, which are tourism routes and coal haulage routes. A dedicated WhatsApp hotline will be introduced to enable the general public to report identified potholes. In addition, the department will provide performance standards pertaining to the response time on patching of potholes in strategic routes. Madam Speaker, by now it is obvious that there is limited funding to address the increasing infrastructure demands. We are therefore looking at leveraging on a multi-sectoral approach to achieve improved rural mobility. Henceforth, we will be participating in the Welisizwe Rural Bridge Program that is jointly implemented by the Department of Defense and Department of Public Works and Infrastructure. This will be augmented by our Integrated Rural Mobility and Access Program in order to deliver comprehensive accessibility solutions to rural communities. Apart from creating effective partnerships with other spheres of government, there is a greater need to unlock private sector funding for infrastructure. It is for this reason that Infrastructure South Africa was established, and to date the entity has signed a memorandum of agreement with the Development Bank of South Africa to establish an infrastructure fund. In addition, the department has started discussions with local farmers and mining companies to form partnership in road maintenance, particularly tourism and coal haulage routes. This initiative will significantly decrease our maintenance burden and contribute towards visible improvement of the provincial road network collection. Madam Speaker, public transport is an essential service that facilitates movement of people, goods, and services. Hence, it is amongst the few sectors that are allowed to operate during lockdowns with reduced occupancy. In spite of the restrictions, public transport is still seen as a major potential virus spreading zone due to the limited space and prolonged exposure and recirculation of air. Therefore, there is an inherent responsibility of public transport operators and users to adhere to the health protocols. Honourable Speaker, the department is responsible for the provision of public transport services in the province. To this end, we have put aside 432 million rand for scholar transport services. The budget for scholar transport services also includes a provision for running cost of 206 government-owned buses. As part of building the capacity of the state, we are establishing a dedicated unit within the Transport Inspectorate to monitor scholar transport through the use of electronic tracking devices. The department is also contracted to 6 bus operators with a subsidy of 754 million rand. On the 21st of May 2021, a 65-passenger bus transporting commuters on the Moloto Road, which is the R573, caught fire and unfortunately 6 passengers lost their lives. This incident has robbed families of their loved ones, parents, and breadwinners. I would once more like to take this opportunity to express my sincere condolences to the bereaved families. In memory of all those who lost their lives on this road, I have initiated discussions with the Minister of Transport to resuscitate the Moloto Rail Development Corridor. Honourable members, the safety of every transport user is my priority. On the 3rd of May 2021, I suspended a taxi route in Steve Tshwete local municipality in an endeavor to stop the taxi violence and in the interest of protecting our communities and commuters. Madam Speaker, the Department of Public Works plays a critical role in Mpumalanga Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan as an implementing agent of infrastructure projects and a coordinator of expanded public works program. It is envisaged that the construction and maintenance of economic and social infrastructure will create employment opportunities. These projects will also stimulate local manufacturing of construction materials in line with the Social Enterprise Development Program and contribute towards the development of our township and rural economies. Honorable members, last year the department received 72 million rand as part of the Presidential Employment Stimulus Package. This budget was utilized to empower the youth and women through paving of rural and township roads. Through the public employment programs such as Sakabaki, Siyatentela, and the National Youth Service, the department is creating training and development opportunities for young people. Looking back at the 2020-2021 financial year, the province managed to create 32,345 job opportunities through EPWP. The main beneficiaries of these opportunities were 21,113 women, 14,340 young people, and 199 people with disabilities. We are going to strengthen this program so that it can surpass the target of 44,180 set for the 2021-2022 financial year. All public bodies need to report and ensure adherence to their procurement plans, enhance project monitoring, and improve data quality of EPWP reports. This will increase their eligibility to access the EPWP incentive grant and thus assist the province to create more job opportunities. Madam Speaker, the department has committed the allocated budget to pursue the following broad provincial policy directives. That is massive infrastructure rollout, mass employment and job security, SMMEs be supported and have fair access to the market, Mpumalanga Infrastructure Master Plan, the release of state land for agricultural purposes and human settlement, the bus rapid transport system in all major towns, Mpumalanga International Fresh Produce Market, efficient, integrated, and well-maintained roads network, and adequate technical skills to enhance capacity of the state. The department's overall budget allocation for the 2021-2022 financial year experienced a decrease of 135 million rand, or 3% when compared to the main appropriation budget in the 2020-2021 financial year. The National Revenue Fund collection has drastically declined due to adverse economic conditions resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. Madam Speaker, we have hit the ground running to ensure our communities have access to services. We note and appreciate the positive mood towards the change in administration of the province, which has created high expectations of our electorate. Our response must be speedy, transparent, and appropriate to their needs. I want to take this opportunity to thank my family for their tireless support and thank the African National Congress for entrusting me with the responsibility to lead at this capacity and be amongst the honorable members of this august House. We commit ourselves to be servants of the people, and we will ensure that policies are implemented without fear or favor in our commitment to improving the lives of our communities. Let me also take this opportunity to extend my sincere gratitude to the Honorable Premier of the province for her leadership and guidance in the Executive Council. Allow me to also thank the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Public Works, Roads and Transport, and all honorable members of Portfolio and Select Committees for their oversight, role and accountability. Last but not least, Madam Speaker, let me appreciate the support I have received from our newly appointed Head of Department, Mr. Charles Morolo, and the entire senior management of the department. Madam Speaker, I now request this House to consider and approve the budget of the Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport, Vote 8, which is as follows. In terms of administration, 365 million rand, 365,355,000 rand, 1,047,728,000 rand. In terms of transport infrastructure, 2,129,814,000 rand. In terms of transport operations, 1,322,675,000 rand. And in terms of community-based programs, 87,427,000 rand. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Lachminarain, for the well-delivered policy and budget speech. The Secretary shall read the 8th order of the day.
Order number 8, consideration and debate on a report of the Portfolio Committee on Public Works, Roads and Transport, Community Safety, Security and Liaison on Vote 8, Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport.
I now call upon the Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Public Works, Roads and Transport, Community Safety, Security and Liaison, Honorable Mahlangu, to table the report.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I rise on behalf of the Portfolio Committee to request the House to adopt the report as tabled.
I have a speaker's list in front of me. I will now call upon the Honorable Mahlangu. You are given 8 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, Madam Premier, Honorable members, community members here. I greet you in the spirit of NDR and wish to quote Comrade Artambo where he said, I quote, "The fight for freedom must go on until it is won, until our country is free and happy and peaceful as part of the community of men. We cannot rest," close quote. The entire world is faced with the COVID-19, which is unprecedented as it requires us to be innovative and meticulous in fulfilling our constitutional obligations. I wish to take this opportunity and applaud our frontline workers who, despite these trying times, they continue to serve with vigor and commitment. It is also incumbent to pay homage to those who have passed on as a result of the pandemic, and may their families find solace. It is against this background that collectively we must be hard at work with a clear sense of agility and focus in effectively servicing our people. The Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport is one of the departments discharged with a mammoth constitutional obligation, which is the custodian of infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, we have entered into a contract with the people of South Africa in general and Mpumalanga in particular. One of our contracts relates to infrastructure investment. Adequate infrastructure is prerequisite for sustainable economic growth and social development, thus laying a foundation for improving the quality of life. It is incumbent to draw a distinction between physical infrastructure, which consists two parts, in the context of the Department's obligation. Roads infrastructure can be classified as an economic infrastructure, while social infrastructure relates to healthcare, educational facilities, etc. Infrastructure investment plays a pivotal role in job creation and economic growth. The recent Stats SA quarterly labor force survey reveals some shocking statistics on unemployment rate, especially amongst the youth aged 15 to 24 and 25 to 34 years, who recorded the highest unemployment rates of 63.3% and 41.3% respectively. This should be a cause for concern, and infrastructure can be one of the cornerstones which can be capitalized upon to create sustainable jobs. It is without any doubt that the pandemic worsened an already dire situation and also severely disrupting economic activity and putting numerous investment on hold, such as infrastructure. Honorable Speaker, the implementation of our infrastructure project must take into cognizance the consideration of the social enterprise model, where the procurement of local produced material must take precedence. We must at all times preserve the jobs that have been created by small and medium businesses which supply infrastructure construction material. We need to privilege such businesses and also pay particular to women, young people, and persons with disabilities. This was echoed by the President when delivering the economic recovery plan, and we must heed this call. Honorable Speaker, our road infrastructure remains a challenge, especially at a municipal level, and some are in treacherous conditions. It is incumbent to impress upon this House and the Department to ensure that such is tabled at the level of MUNMEC. It is important that we approach the delivery of quality road infrastructure from an intergovernmental relation perspective by building capacity at a local level and ensure that we venture and deal with lack of expertise pertaining to road infrastructure. Quality roads are important due to the fact communities can access both economic and social amenities. Honorable Speaker, the department as a custodian of infrastructure in the province has indeed made some milestone in the construction of state-of-art schools, early childhood centers, healthcare facilities, etc. We can confidently say that most of our children, especially from farms, are receiving quality, accessible education through the construction of boarding schools such as DPWR&T, etc. The department has also constructed numerous healthcare facilities, and some construction are currently underway, such as Middleburg District and the new Mapulaning hospitals. We have also witnessed the refurbishment of Rob Ferreira Hospital. Honorable Speaker, whilst the focus is on construction of infrastructure, the maintenance of existing infrastructure remains important. It is critical to localize the supply of labor where infrastructure projects, be it construction or maintenance. This will further bolster our efforts in responding to the economic recovery plan through job creation. The EPWP continues to play a significant role in job creation, and the department has set out to continue implementing this program in its annual plan 2021-2022. Honorable Speaker, transport operations such as public transport remains a key pillar to economic growth, as majority of our people utilize this mode of transport to execute their daily economic activities. It is equally important to ensure that social amenities are easy accessed. The necessary support continues to be provided by the department. I wish to unreservedly register to this House that some of our scholar transport operators are operating vehicles which are not roadworthy and exposing our children to danger. In this instance, I would call the Department of Community Safety, Security and Liaison to ensure that the inspection and monitoring of our scholar transport operators. Honorable Speaker, our transition from apartheid to democracy was a success. It is common knowledge that too many people are trapped in poverty and significantly concentrated in poverty-stricken areas with high unemployment. Since infrastructure investment is inextricably linked to economic growth,
Honorable Member.
Job creation, communities accessing economic and social amenities. The common denominators in implementing our infrastructure program and project at this juncture should be job creation and sustenance of jobs that currently exist as a way to respond to the devastating implications caused by COVID-19. I thank you.
Honorable Sidibe, you are given 5 minutes. Honorable Sidibe. Can I call Honorable Javier Morgan? We are given 4 minutes.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Greetings to the House. Honourable Speaker, the Honourable MEC has just delivered her budget for the 2021-22 financial year. And I am glad to be given our current economic situation. The budget for 2021-2022 reflected a slight decrease of 134 million to being over 4.9 billion. Honourable MEC, I noticed that in your budget for 2021-22 financial year, you mentioned that the department only met 54% of its targets which were set by December 2020. MEC, as this is a normal occurrence of the department, may I please request that you devise a strategy to ensure that your department meets its target delivery as the condition of all provincial roads is deteriorating. In addition to the above, for the past 3 years, your department has also been struggling to complete projects either within the agreed upon time or within the agreed upon budget. Honourable Speaker, as the parliamentary village, which had an estimated completion of April 2020, is now extremely delayed, may I request that this is prioritised and that it does not become another stalled capital project by the department. Honourable Speaker, as mentioned in the motion delivered on Thursday, we recently did oversight to a provincial road called Slyhoek, and this is situated in Emakazeni local municipality. It was heartbreaking to see that despite this road being pivotal to the tourism and accommodation industry, it is completely undrivable. The sad reality is that there are many more such roads in Tabachewu, in Bushbuck Ridge, and the entire Panorama route. Honourable Speaker, how are we going to promote jobs and sustain those who are dependent on the tourism industry if our roads are described as potholes with tar? As a department, let us do our best to promote tourism, not only because it was the hardest hit by the COVID-19 lockdown, but also because it sustains jobs and providing food on the people's tables. Honourable MEC, I see that in your APP for the department you plan more than double the target from the previous year. And given the condition of our roads, and through your honourable Speaker, may I please request that you stick to this target. Honourable Speaker, in concluding, I believe that a lot more oversight and monitoring needs to be executed when it comes to these projects, which are conducted by this department. We must ensure that all projects are completed within the agreed upon time and within the agreed upon budget. I believe that as the COVID-19 pandemic and the extended lockdown wreaked havoc in our province, let us focus on tourism routes and sustain current jobs. I thank you.
I now call upon Honourable Webber. You are given 3 minutes.
Honourable Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. I want to mention that I spent about 2 years together with the Honourable MEC in the committees. And in these committee meetings, I was made aware of the fact that the Honourable MEC is a highly intelligent person. She's a dedicated person with great ability. Facing her new job as MEC for Public Works, I need not mention the fact that it's a very, very mammoth task. It's difficult. It's not going to be easy. Taking into consideration the state of our infrastructure, and may I just point out to you that infrastructure, road infrastructure, is the backbone of our economy. It's the backbone. And we can't risk that this backbone is deteriorating as it is being done at this point in time. When I visited her in her office, she assured me that she wants to make Mpumalanga a pothole-free province. I wish her well in that endeavor. It's not going to be easy. But if ever there is a person, individual who's going to be capable and able to do that, it is the MEC. I wish her well on that endeavor. Now, Madam Speaker, this department is heavily reliant on tenders and contracts. It's heavily reliant on tenders and contracts. And I want to point out and remind the Honourable MEC, and that is applicable to all the government organs, that if I look at the Preferential Procurement Regulations of 2017, it states in 9A, if the price offered by a tenderer scoring the highest points is not market-related, the organ of state may not award the contract to that tenderer. This means that every tender and every contract must be market-related. And now I'm talking about the broad market. I'm not talking about a second market. There's not something like a second market. It's the broad market. Every tender and every contract,
Honourable Member.
Every contract and every tender must match the market price. If it doesn't match the market price, the Honourable MEC is allowed to negotiate a new price which will match the market price. And if that's not possible, the tender must be cancelled. I just want to remind you about that. I thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Secretary, can you please assist Honorable Sidibe to join again?
Accept, Frank, accept.
Honorable Sidibe, you are given 5 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, and much appreciated. Sometimes technology manages us. I was trying to unmute, and then I pressed the leave button on my right. Honorable Speaker, can I go on?
Continue, Honorable Sidibe.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the Department of Public Works, Roads and Transport has a slogan that says, South Africa works because of public works. Now the question therefore is, South Africa works because of public works where? Here in Mpumalanga. Given the huge challenges of the dilapidated and decaying public infrastructure, ranging from roads infrastructure, hospital infrastructure, school infrastructure, and other public infrastructure. Year in, year out, Honorable Speaker, the Department of Public Works come here in this August House to request for the approval of the budget or their budget. and they lie to us that at the top of their priorities is the maintenance and revamping of all the public infrastructure. As we speak, Honorable Speaker, all the hospital infrastructure are at a dire state. Boilers are not working, laundries are not working, theaters in the hospitals are not working, and as a result, they are affecting the doctors and the nurses, and including the patients. Some hospitals in this province affect the well-being of the doctors, nurses, and the patients as the result of the malfunctioning of this basic infrastructure in the hospitals. Millions of rands are being spent on daily basis on road patching, but this does not yield the positive results because of the poor quality of the job provided by the service provider and the material that is used. This results in the potholes resurfacing and resurfacing time and again immediately after the rainfall, Honorable Speaker. Many government buildings, including the government houses, have been abandoned and people are occupying them without paying any cent. Why is the department not disposing those houses and those abandoned buildings and sell it out to the people if they don't need it anymore? And this will save the department some money because it looks like it is expensive to maintain this building and these government houses, especially those that are there in White River and Vintonia in Nelspruit, where everyone can stay and use it as their own houses, freely so. So my advice to the department, Honorable Speaker and Honorable MEC, is that sell those houses once and for all to the people who need it so that they can buy and make them their permanent shelters. And when doing so, you must prioritize those needing it or those currently occupying it, including government officials who cannot afford. Lastly, I'd advise the department to pay the attention into the transport issues in the department, more especially in the taxi industries. A recent case is the case of Middelburg, where a permit for operation permit was issued to two taxi associations, which led to these two rival taxi associations being fighting one another. And as a result, our people become casualties because guns are at play in that situation. There are many more issues that pertain to operation permit, including in Dr. J.S. Marapiane, in Hazelview and Pushback Ridge, and also in Bombela, in Ngotwana, and Matsulu Taxi Association. Can the department please address these issues so that we at least minimize the fight amongst the taxi association, which results in many of our people being killed? I thank you, Honorable Speaker. And thank you very much for your consideration.
I will now call upon Honorable Lachman Rain. You are given 10 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First and foremost, let me thank all the speakers in respect of the, what would I say, all the issues that they may have against the department. In response to the first issue that was raised by Honorable Nora Mashlangu, we take note, Honorable, of the unemployment rate in the province, also to support local women and businesses. In the budget speech, I think you would have heard that through our Sakabaki program, which was already published, we intend on developing women contractors, and I think that meets the issue in relation to support of local people. Honorable Speaker, I think first and foremost, I cannot speak in terms of Honorable Sidibe's allegations that as a department we come here every year asking for money and we fail to do the work. I can't speak for my predecessors. I can only speak for what intentions I have as MEC of this department. Like I said in my budget speech, the department is taking a change in terms of building our internal capacity so that we do not have to source outside service providers to do simple things like changing a door or changing a light bulb. And by doing that, we are reducing the number of contracts that the department needs to outsource in the form of tenders. Honorable Speaker, I think the condition of our roads is a huge concern, especially the roads leading to our tourist attraction site, because first and foremost, as Mpumalanga, we are a tourist attraction destination. But I think in this regard, we are purchasing the jet patches, the pothole jet patches, which would meet these issues. And these jet patches are solely going to concentrate on strategic tourist routes, as well as very poor conditions, roads in very poor conditions. Honorable Speaker, I take note of the condition of the allegation that certain of our transport vehicles, our scholar transport vehicles, may not be roadworthy. And standing here, I cannot confirm such allegations. However, all I can say is that the department will be instructed to go out and revise that. In this regard, in terms of scholar transport, our department has now taken the responsibility of not outsourcing the job to oversight over scholar transport, but instead build an internal unit to do that, and using electronic facilities in the manner of where we can electronically check the speed of a transport bus, the scholar transport bus, as well as the route that they are traveling on. The only thing that we might have challenge with is we cannot confirm whether the driver of the scholar of the vehicle is drunk or sober. But in that regard, we can utilize our traffic inspectorates to also facilitate in that process. I also want to welcome the words of appreciation from Honorable Mashlangu in terms of the building infrastructure that the department has already addressed in our health sectors, in our education sectors, also in terms of the art schools. Honorable Speaker, in this regard, the Honorable Premier in her SOPA instructed us as a department to utilize the 50 million rand that we have been given in terms of maintaining and upgrading the Kwamshlanga government complex to be insourced, all those services in respect of what's required to be insourced, as well as to utilize the Department of Correctional Services. Honorable Morgan, in terms of the 50%, 54% of our targets not being met, I think I will instruct the department to submit responses in writing. However, I note that yes, we have set high targets in our APPs, and I do intend on meeting those targets within the financial year and within budget, so as long as the budget allows. Honorable Weber, I think I must thank you for your continued support, and I think it's visible where your support comes from, because before I became an MEC, I sat as a member on many portfolio committees with yourself as well as other honorable members. At times you would also give me direction to say keep up the good work, and I appreciate you for still doing it today. It's not something that I need to say because you have given me the support that I need to push myself. No, that's something that I need to do for myself as well as for the department and the general public of Mpumalanga. I think it also addresses what I said in terms of you alleging that we are heavily reliant on our tenders and contracts. The fact that we are going to increase our internal capacity would alleviate the amount of tenders and amount of contracts that we rely on. Honorable Sidibe, the poor condition of our buildings in the municipalities and all the infrastructure in our department. I think as a department, even if you go to previous years, we are allowed a certain percentage that's ring-fenced of the budget in terms of maintenance. However, that percentage that's allowed, we have went further and above all those percentages in terms of maintaining our infrastructure across the province. Yes, we do have a lot of work to do in that respect, but we can only take it one step at a time. Also, in terms of our budget being reduced, Honorable Speaker, Honorable Sidibe, theatres not working in hospitals, I don't think it's a priority of our department to ensure that the medical equipment in hospitals are operational or not. That should form part of the Department of Health, and therefore I would not respond on such. Decision to release houses occupied or other under our department, yes, the department has taken a step, and that submission has been made to EXCO to say that we have a lot of houses within our department that we do not utilize, and we are waiting for the approval of EXCO to say that those houses must be released on the market, which approval should be attended to as soon as possible. In respect of taxi violence, Honorable Sidibe, I think the step that we've taken in terms of the entire issue in Middleburg, where 2 taxi associations were granted one permit. I cannot speak for those permits being issued because it was not under my administration. However, what I can say is as a department, we do not condone violence of any sort, be it in protest for service delivery in terms of road infrastructure or protest in terms of taxi violence issues. Honorable Speaker, we come strong in that sense because I don't think that the life of an individual is equivalent to the 10 Rand or 20 Rand bus fare that they pay. Hence, the decision was taken to close the route in Middleburg. We are, however, under investigation to investigate how the permits were granted to 2 different associations. And in line with the Honorable Premier, in terms of accountability and consequence management, the responsible official would be accountably held responsible. Honorable Speaker, any other issues that I have missed out, I think my department will submit in writing. Thank you.
Now the question before the House is whether we agree to adopt the report as tabled by Honorable Mahlangu. Agreed to?
Agreed.
As so agreed. That brings us to the end of today's business. The House is adjourned until Tuesday, the 22nd of June 2021 at 2:15 as hybrid sitting using Microsoft Teams platform.
The procession must remain seated until the speaker leaves, please. Honorable Weber, remain seated.